Welcome, everybody, here to the analyst desk as we are getting ready for the playoffs in Risen Champions League. It's the second tier 2 tournament of the Proving Grounds circuit, and we have got some exciting action across the board. Today on this stream, we will be bringing you AOE versus Wildcard Red, and I'll be joined here to break that one down on the desk by my friends here, Elijah and Taco. Gentlemen, welcome to the desk. How are you feeling today?
Well, it should be interesting to see these two teams play off. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's going to be maybe a bit of a one-sided match, but I'm here to support both teams nonetheless. Pretty excited.
All right, a one-sided match coming out of Taco. Before we do kind of get into that, do want to paint the big picture here of what is going on across Risens. We are into playoffs here. It is round number one at the moment, and we do have four matches that'll be going on simultaneously. We've got Cloud9 Amateur going up against Resolve, Maryville up against AOE Randoms. Our match here today, AOE versus Wildcard Red, and then EGP versus Zoos. And I did get predictions out of most of my analysts here, but Taco, considering you said that this is going to be a bit of a one-sided matchup, maybe walk me through your prediction for today's matchup and why you think it's going to go that way.
All right. I mean, today's matchup, I think people were speculating on it before how it might go. AOE. I think they're still a pretty good team though. I think Darkwings is a pretty big focal point. RBM, very solid player. Get streams, amazing AD carry. But when I look at it in terms of me being a part of Wildcard, it's like you have Daption and Bradley on Wildcard Red, who are like the kids in middle school who got beat up on the playground by AOE, and then they call their big brother Brandini and Winston all the way coming down from LCS to beat the snot out of AOE, and then out of nowhere you see Arrow flying in all the way from Korea, and he's just gonna take over this game. I feel like.
Elijah, similar thoughts here on this matchup. How are you feeling going into it on the other end of this kind of matchup of the orgs? I would say.
Yeah, so I feel like obviously AOE esports is good. Like you said, Darkwings is good. Sketchstream's real solid from top to bottom. But the problem is, it feels like something happened after they lost to randoms in Cup quarterfinals, where their entire showing at Risen has been sloppy to say the least. Right. I feel like now is the time to turn it around. Now is the time you kind of have to turn it around because if you don't, you will get wiped by Wildcard Red.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that matchup against the randoms there, the in-house sister team didn't go in their favor, but they did manage to still get out of the groups alongside randoms. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they took the matchup against them this time around in a
Hmm.
2-1 fashion, Elijah. So do you think they have improved a little bit since Cup? I know you said they've been a little sloppy throughout this tournament, but are there any areas in which they have specifically gotten better, in your opinion?
Um, if you were to watch their matchup against Supernova, you would say yes. But if you were to watch the previous games, you would say no. Right. Like I said, their matchup against randoms, their matchup against Dig Mirage, they were against Dig Mirage specifically. I think was the big worry point. They were in two nearly unlosable spots against Dig Mirage. They take losses in both in that series, and it really turns out that they really need to clean it up. Like I said, they're not in a great spot right now, and now's the time to do it.
Yeah, it certainly does have to be the time to do it. We've seen Wild Card Red, how strong they can be. They are, of course, the Challengers Uprising champions and the current only team that is qualified for Proving Grounds. But there was a bit of a shakeup, of course, from Cup. They did lose Dokla, who moved up onto TLA. Much to the celebration of everyone here. Excited to see him playing up there back in the Academy system once again. And Brandini came in to maybe not the greatest start here for Wildcard Red Taco as they got handed a big loss by Maryville, but they have bounced back and moved on. Do you largely think that some of maybe the synergy issues that would have been lost with, Dokla Winston have sort of been papered over here by Wildcard Red?
Yeah, I think it's good to point out that in the beginning, especially against Maryville, they did have a rough match against them, not even winning a single game. I do think that there was some synergy issues, maybe some like game philosophy clashes, as Brandini had previously not been playing in amateur, as far as I'm aware of. Um, but later on, especially in their match against Wildcard Black, as well as trying to think of the other team in the group, but they did really solid. Um, I think that they have a pretty good chance today, and it'll show.
So confidence here from Taco. Taco, you never really gave me what was your actual prediction for the series score here today?
Today, it's gonna be a 3-0 for Wildcard Red. It's not even gonna be close.
Wow, a 3-0 for Wild Card Red. Elijah, do you share that sentiment?
Well, I was talking about it before the game. I actually think that if AOE can win game one, there's a chance they can pull out the series. But with how they've been playing in Risen so far, if they drop game one, I think they pretty much just fall apart and they probably do get 3-0.
Man, okay. So very heavily here in the favor of Wild Card Red. But gentlemen, I do want to look at this from the AoE perspective here. I actually had it a little bit closer. I had it going at least 3-1. If there is an area you think AoE can stand out, where are we looking for this team to succeed to try to take it to this Wild Card Red roster if they do want to overcome this series score that you have predicted?
Well, I personally think their two points of pressure really are between Dark Wings and Sketch Streams, right? Mid and bot have been the focal points for AOE for quite some time, and I feel like if they're gonna win, they really have to have a pop-up performance in Dark Wings. Sketch Streams has to, I guess, climb a bit of a mountain in downing Arrow and Daption, but the downside in how AOE plays the game is that it's exactly the same way Wildcard plays it, right? So you're basically going against two teams that want to focus around mid bot, and it turned into an issue where can you overcome a team that on paper should be better than you in those spots?
Yeah, I think it's a real David and Goliath matchup. I do think AoE has a really strong bot laner in sketch streams, as you pointed out, and especially in their match against Supernova, like he was the person that they played through. He's the reason why they're here right now, and Wildcard Red should have something planned against them. Otherwise, I think sketch streams has a pretty good chance going up against Arrow, to be honest.
Oh, really? Okay, that's an interesting one, Taco. Because I know that we all here on the Wildcard stream learned the hard way how good Arrow can be yesterday. Unfortunately, particularly in that game two against Wildcard Black. So, talk to me about maybe what you think sketch streams could bring to the table there to match up against this sort of, as you were saying, this kind of hero coming over from Korea has been in league forever. He just has tons of pedigree behind his name. How is sketch streams going to bring it to him?
Sketch streams, I mean, when I personally looked at his champion pool, one champion stood out amazingly. It was his Tristana. His Tristana is constantly good. I believe he has like only one loss on it across like his entire career in amateur. Arrow, on the other hand, plays a really good Aphelios. I think all of this split so far, like maybe 60% of all of his games have been Aphelios. So both players are leaning pretty heavily towards one champion. So we kind of have to see if the teams are going to take the bait and whether they're just going to ban it out or if they have something prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean the nice thing about it being essentially Aphelios and Tristana being the two power pick spot side is that Tristana's kind of a pick you can fit into a lot of different comps. Aphelios hypothetically should be something you can't just pick every game. Wildcard has been doing it and they've been winning, but I feel like that's more to do with the player rather than the actual champion. I think there are a lot of ways to abuse this champion. That if AoE decides to pick up on it, picks like Varus, picks like even just going Cog plus Enchanter, there are ways to actually get past playing against an Aphelios here if you want to bait out the pick.
Okay, so two power picks to look out for in the draft. That Tristana, certainly a big one for sketch dreams. It certainly was against Supernova, and I think much to Grape's chagrin, they did not ban that one away. Unfortunately, his Twitter post went, or his little video there went to waste. We do have the Aphelios here for Arrow. We've talked a lot about the bottom lanes, gentlemen, but I do want to bring my attention to kind of that new member for Wildcard Red in Brandini. Based on what you two have seen, again, we mentioned the loss against Maryville, but how do you think he's been performing, and how do you think that matchup might go against Faisal here in the top lane? We know the teams don't necessarily play around their top lane that much, but it is important to have your synergy with your jungler, with the rest of your squad to be connected. Do you feel like he's gelled and that he is kind of rising to the level that we were seeing from Dokla before he departed?
I do think that for the side of Wildcard Red, it's very heavily in their favor. I mean, Brandini and Winston, both former pro players, both probably had played with each other many times in solo queue. And like I pointed out before, I think they have really good synergy with each other. Faisal and RBM, while I do think that they can be strong points for AoE, that's not really what's going to happen in this series, in my opinion. Like we said, and that we kind of are going with, Sketch Streams is going to be the main carry. So Faisal and RBM, while they can be strong players, all they really just have to do is go even, or if they get the advantage, try and funnel that all the way into bot lane. And I think that's just going to be the main challenge this series.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on Faisal. I think Faisal's main goal here is just to stay even, like you said. However, I think RBM's been having really good early games in a lot of his games against Dig, against AOE, had some decent early games. So I think that jungle can be a tipping point here, but he has to be able to utilize whatever lead he gets and turn it into a lead in bot and mid.
Hmm.
So, all right, so looking to transition those leads into the bottom lane. So I guess it is just going to be a big bottom lane day. Hopefully, our production team is listening here and we keep that directed camera firmly focused on the likes of Arrow, Daption, Sketch Streams, and Fizzy. And excited to see which one of these teams can come out on top. Before we send it over to the casters, guys, I know you have your series score, but we saw Pentakill come out of Arrow yesterday. Any spicy takes on on anything you might think would happen here in these games today?
Spicy events that'll happen. I think either Sketch Streams or Arrow will get another pentakill easily this series. Easily.
Yeah, I personally think the spiciest thing that could possibly happen is AOE makes us all look stupid, and they actually come out in 3-0.
Yeah, that's a pretty good big possibility actually.
I do think it's possible. When I say that there's a good chance that Wildcard 3-0s today, it's not because I think that there's this massive gap between the teams. It's just because I think that AOE's come out a little sloppy, but if they come out on form and they come out and they look good, they can absolutely beat Wildcard tonight.
Bit of a momentum team here, then, Elijah. We've definitely seen that from some teams in the LCS. Is that something that AOE has mentioned that they feed off of?
Again, I don't necessarily think it's momentum. I just think they need to clean up because if they clean up, they're actually very good, right? But the fact of the matter is, this entire tournament has been very, very messy from them. So if they can pick it up, if they pick up game one, if they want to ride the momentum off game one, they can. But it all starts with coming out strong in game one, right?
Yeah, game ones can be critically important to any series. And do want to remind everybody here at home, this is a best of 5 here today. So we are in it for the long haul. This is no longer the best of threes we saw in the early stages. So we'll have to see if, that momentum can be built up, if they have cleaned it up. It's been a bit of a short timeline, unfortunately, Elijah. It's just been one day since that Supernova series, but I will be keeping my fingers crossed that AOE has cleaned up a couple of those things and that we are in for a great series here today. But with that, our teams are getting ready. They're hopping into the lobby. We are just a couple minutes away from our game one draft. So we will be tossing it over to our casters, Random Minion Caster and Gordo. Take it away.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's stream of the Risen Champions League. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Random Minion Caster, the notorious RMC. How are you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing good here, Gordo, and I'm a little bit surprised at our analyst desk. They're feeling kind of negative about AOE Esports. I personally just cast their game last night against Supernova, so after their Swift 2-0 there, I think I might be a little bit hyped because I'm expecting a little bit more of a fight here against Wildcard Red.
Yeah, absolutely. AOE looking to be a little bit more on the form that we expected from them after their performance yesterday at Wildcard. Of course, they've really come back from their first game in this group stage as well. They were looking a little bit shaky as they were coming on out with Brandini for their first few games, but since then they seem to have done a very good job of rallying, and they have come out to win the next two series that they played there and make it out of the groups, Albaya's second seed.
Yeah, and I mean the one loss they had against Maryville, first of all, was well played by Maryville, but it's also the first time they were playing with Brandini. And as much as Brandini was supposed to have a similar champion pool and similar play style to Dokla, their ideologies weren't exactly the same. We heard Taco talk about it on the desk here. They just needed some time to round out the edges, and certainly they had the time to do that in the group stages here. They certainly looked a lot better around the top side in their matches against Wildcard Black here. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And with Faisal as well, we know that RBM doesn't like to spend too much time in that top lane for Faisal. But last night, Faisal's Renekton looked pretty clean as well. And I think if you just kind of ignore that and you let Faisal get that Renekton without properly either picking something to deal with it or just kind of banning Brandini, maybe that top lane won't be as quiet as it sounds like the analysts are expecting here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if one of these teams comes in with a good top lane centric strategy, that could really blow open the whole series. Because, like we said, both of these squads, they've been playing through bot lane a lot, but potentially playing through Faisal, that's something that wouldn't even be a huge surprise to me for AoE from a strategic perspective, just because how confident can you really be as Sketch Dreams coming on in trying to go toe to toe with Arrow? That's the big selling point of this wildcard red roster. You can't blame somebody if they want to, not play directly into the primary win condition of the opposing team, and maybe try for a little bit of Faisal gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about spicy takes. I think playing through Faisal is a spicier take than AoE 3-0ing this. So I guess that's the cast of spicy take we've got here. Talking about that Arrow Sketch Streams matchup here, I feel like we have to talk about the fact that we are on patch 11.13. This is the second day of Risen that will be played on that patch. Last night's games were also played on that. We saw some surprising things. Dr. Mundo is enabled, is pickable. Tom Kench, however, is not because of the rework. And specific to this matchup, because Arrow, I think, is one of the few ADCs who are actually playing it, Aphelios got a tiny little buff as well to the damage. So, maybe that's going to make things a little bit tougher here for the side of AoE. Maybe it won't. We'll have to see. But it certainly does change things up a little bit for them, especially in the jungle. Rumble being weakened here now means that it's not going to be as high prio for both of these teams.
No, definitely not. Did not see a huge amount of Rumble priority in last night's games. And, you bring up what kind of picks we might start to see in this bottom lane. You got to address the favorite champions of each of these 80 carries here. Sketch Streams has those ridiculous Tristana stats that I know the analyst desk already went over. And Arrow, he's got equally crazy stats on that Aphelios. I think each of these players coming in with just one game loss on their signature picks here. So really curious to see if that's going to warp the draft or if they're just going to trade those picks back and forth and see who comes out on top in the head-to-head.
Yeah, and you can always try and hit the support pool as well, right? Ophelio is generally an AD carry who likes to go with more protective supports, the likes of Thresh, Tom Kench, or Braum. Tom Kench already off the table. If you ban out the Thresh, you ban out the Braum here, and then suddenly that is an AD carry who can be punished a little bit. We heard from Elijah there about, Varus, Ezreal, champions that outrange, or pardon me, Cogban, not Ezreal there, but champions that outrange the Aphelios and can punish it. Those are things here that Sketch Streams can play. Yes, we are used to thinking about the Tristana, but hey, Sketch Streams mentioned last night 60 something or 70 something % win rate on Varus for this account as well. And Varus is very, very meta right now.
Yeah. And then looking up towards the mid lane, also pretty similar stories this split so far for both of these mid laners. Both of them, historically, these control mage players in solo queue and things like that. That's what everybody thinks about from Bradley prior to the name change. It's what everybody thinks about from Dark Wings. But now in this season, both of these guys have really transitioned into the melee carries, into the assassin style builds. But as you said, it's 11-13. It's the first couple days of that patch. Mages are slightly better. They got slightly cheaper itemization, the 200 gold shaved off the top there. And, we saw last night, that was enough to get Dark Wings back on the Orianna. I played 2 games of it yesterday, both of which looked very good in that matchup up against Supernova. Maybe we see more of that today, and maybe we see something like that from Bradley as well.
Yeah, personally, I'm not super familiar with Bradley and like what reputation he had before. I know Bradley as a mechanical player for Bethany Lutheran, really sort of a hands player as they call them there. A lot of assassins, things like the LeBlanc, like the Akali, even like the Irelia, which I believe they pulled out last night as well. So I expect to continue seeing that. Yes, the Mage Mythics got cheaper. I won't say they got better, just that they're more accessible quicker here. And certainly Darkwings looked really good on the Oriana last night. I want to continue seeing Darkwings on those style of champions. especially if AoE are actually going to commit to this head-to-head of the AD carries here between Sketch Dreams and Arrow, then I feel like the more tools you can give your AD carry, the more protection, the more of an edge they have here. And compared to things like the Silas or like the Jace that we've seen from Dark Wings before, I do think game one, because it is a best of five, you've got time to experiment. Game one, focusing everything on Sketch Dreams. If Sketch Dreams can win that ADC battle here, it really opens up options for AoE in terms of how they want to approach the rest of the series. And if it doesn't work out, hey, you got plenty of time at that point to transition towards Darkwing focus or Darkwind centric compositions coming out.
Yeah, I definitely see, a fallback plan of those solo laners from the side of AoE. Wildcard, you got to believe, should be able to do the same thing as well. They've been mainly a bottom-centric focused team thus far, and how could you not be when you got Arrow rocking the Aphelios every single game is available? But yeah, if that starts to not work out, if Sketch Dream starts to take the upper hand for X, Y, or Z reason, you know that Brandini is that hyper-experienced player up in the top lane. You know that Bradley has been popping off, has been that mechanical player thus far this season, has really been a menace in the mid lane in his own right. Could see Wildcard go for a similar strategy here. So completely agree there, RMC. We might get to see just a bot lane showdown between these two guys for game number one. And then coming out later, we'll see who loses that matchup and who is forced to adapt, well, who gets the upper hand.
For sure. Now, we are just waiting here for, I believe it's Wildcard Red to prepare for draft. And we do have information that game one will feature AoE on the blue side, while Wildcard Red are unsurprisingly here on the red side. And Gordo, that might affect the draft a little bit in terms of what we might see coming out of draft here. Surprisingly, the champion pools don't overlap too much. They all play the meta champions, but I did notice one interesting trend about Wildcard Red, and that is that they never ban Gwen. Gwen, one of the most broken champions, still on patch 11.13. Not a lot of teams are letting that Gwen through, but Wildcard will do it. And not only will they do it, but if you don't ban it, they will first pick it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Gwen also super flexible. We've seen some Gwen mid lane. We've seen some Gwen jungle. We saw a Gwen bot lane with Senna AD carry back earlier in this same tournament as well. So definitely a pick that has a lot of value, both as a power pick and as a flex pick if you take that early on. We've seen Wildcard end up giving it over, I think, once or twice in the group stages. I know Brandini busted out the Gnar up against it when they were facing off against Maryville. Didn't quite work out the way they had hoped it to, but again, that is Brandini's first day. It's really going to be up to this series to determine, was Wildcard's matchup against Maryville right back at the first day of this tournament, was that a fluke where Wildcard was going through some growing pains with their new roster, or was that a showing of things to come, that this isn't the same Wildcard that were able to dominate Cup in such a powerful fashion? This is the game that really is going to help us figure out which Wildcard Red we're really dealing with here.
Yeah, and I absolutely love to see them leave it open, and that will be a test as well. We talk about the power picks, the Aphelios, the Tristana. Well, Gwen going to be right up there with them here. And another change that we've seen, we touched on the fact that Rumble's out the jungle, but Diana's still in, and something that we've seen come up in priority has been that Xin Zhao as well. And with that Xin Zhao, the Enchanter support picks coming into the mid or the top lane, Karma and Lulu both getting very high priorities for these teams. But it feels like AoE's really jumped on that pick, especially the Karma for Faisal in the top lane. Whereas Wildcard Red, on the other hand, we're not quite seeing the support picks come out quite as much. If we do, it's primarily in the mid lane for Bradley. Dabshin continues to like these sort of supportish, these tankier supportish picks here.
Yeah, and where some of those support picks really come through, AoE, they've really embraced that Lulu in particular. We know that they're willing to take that on blue one. They are going to be blue side coming into this first game. And they have multiple places they can throw that. They can put it in the mid or top lane to support something like a Xin Zhao in the jungle, but they can also throw it bot lane and play the Lulu Kog'Maw composition. We've already seen that out of them once this tournament. Wasn't necessarily the greatest of games out of the side of AoE, but the fact that they're willing to bust it out on the tournament stage means that they practice it, that they play it, and it's something you got to keep in mind as we're getting into these drafts.
Perfect. Yeah, draft starting up right away, and they took a long time to get in here, but now that they're in here, they're going pretty quick. Akali, of course, being taken away. Just generically such a strong pick right now. The laning phase feels a little easier in the current meta, and on top of that, not only can you assassinate targets, the team fight damage on an unchecked Akali is nothing to sniff at. The Shinzao, of course, that we were discussing there, Gordo, taken off the table right away. And with that, I mean, you still got things to pair with enchanters like Olaf, for example, but doesn't have quite the same early game impact.
Yeah, definitely not there. So the Xin Zhao comp going to immediately be something that is taken off the table here by the side of Wildcard. See if that does affect maybe some of that Lulu priority here, or if they do still want it for a different position. The Nocturne ban, one that we're going to be seeing a lot of tonight, I have a feeling RMC, that new Stride Breaker, really has brought that champion up into a lot more viability, both in the lane and in the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, to a lot of champions, removing that gap closer was a nerf on Stride Breaker, but for Nocturne, you don't need it to gap close, and that 90% slow is absolutely massive when you hit on a target. And more importantly to me, the Lucian Nocturne ban, those are both picks that often are used to counter Gwen in lane here. And they're banned away by AoE. Wildcard Gaming Red, I don't know what their last ban is here, but if it's not Gwen, AoE can first pick that with relative comfort here, knowing that there's not a super oppressive lane for them. Then there we go.
Yeah, looks like that Gwen is going to be locked on in here, is going to be that very powerful presumed top laner for the side of AoE. And, maybe this is the opportunity that AoE have to maybe look at Faisal a little bit more closely to be powerful for this pick. Apparently, the Nocturne ban I'm getting word is Tristana. So the Tristana is actually going to be taken away here by the side of AoE.
Okay, that's really odd to me that we'll get that double checked. I don't know if that was meant to be the misband with Tristana. That would make more sense to me, because why would AoE ban Sketchstream's best champion? But you know what? Varus Thresh is picked up here. And yeah, sorry, we do get confirmation. Misban is Tristana, so that makes sense. It's Wildcard. Varus Thresh, so not the Aphelios coming out here. And personally, I think that is a solid choice. Varus does well into the Tristana early here, and there's no need to risk that Aphelios laning phase necessarily. Arrow has done amazing things on a champion that uses, well, arrows.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the real power of Arrow here for the side of Wildcard Gaming Red, because while he does play a lot of the Aphelios, it's not a crutch for him. He can still play all of those meta champions. He's busted out a whole bunch of different picks already in Tier 2 tournaments. We've seen the Sivir, we've seen the Samira, we've seen the Draven, and we've seen a couple of games of the Varus as well. He demands bans on these powerful meta AD carries, but he also has a huge array of pocket picks that he's willing to go to if they get banned away.
Yeah, and now Renekton being picked up by Wildcard Red here to match the Set and Nautilus that came out of AoE. AoE right now, we know that at least one solo lane was picked, but Gwen and Set can both be flexed around multiple lanes here. The only thing that is for sure is Nautilus support for the most part. Tristana taken off the table. They're going to continue focusing on sketch streams here with the Kaisa, which was his second most played champion throughout Risen Champions so far.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a call out to sketch streams here. You know, we've banned away your signature Tristana, and now we're going to pinch the pool even farther while giving Arrow this incredibly powerful pick. I remember he's playing a whole bunch of Varus back in 2017 when he won his LCS MVP. He is incredibly experienced on this champion, and forcing the side of sketch streams onto something he's even less experienced on than his regular run-of-the-mill picks should certainly be looked at on paper as an advantage for Wildcard Red. We'll see if the side of AoE are able to withstand it.
Okay, another glitched ban there coming through from Wildcard Red. We do get word it is an Ezreal. So triple AD carry bans here against sketch streams, and why not? You've already locked in your Varus here. You're just denying here, and that's what happens when you don't match in terms of what you're seeing from the other side. You can get pinched. Jungle Pool being pinched out for Wildcard Red here as well, and for Winston, you know, Rumble's been nerfed. The Shinzao is banned, the Sejuani, Olaf, Nocturne, all of that banned as well. Diana's still on the table, or Udyr. Either of those would work here with this composition.
Yeah, you really have to wonder if AoE are trying to push Wildcard towards a certain jungler here, because they don't have a necessarily locked-in jungler yet either. Could potentially be the Gwen, but that's not really what you think of as where you intend to throw the Gwen once you lock it in first pick. It is going to be the Volibear lock-in, though, here for the side of Wildcard. You got to believe that that's going to be the pick for Winston coming into the jungle. And now, how does RBM want to respond, and what do they want to take for AD carry? Will be the Jinx here locked on in for sketch streams to pair up with that Nautilus.
And with that Jinx lock in here, I'm expecting to see, something maybe a little bit tankier coming through from AoE because you just want a solid front line. Set Nautil is great, but the more the merrier. Right now, Wildcard, they don't necessarily have something that's going to be able to dive past that line here. Oh my goodness, Gordo. I did not expect to see this. This is the first Rumble, I believe, we're seeing here in Risen's Champs League on patch 11.13. It has been nerfed. It was the Scrap Shield cooldown. You can't overheat to start, which means that your jungle clear is significantly slower on that first clear. Your mid game strength or your level 6 strength is still the same, but it's just more that your lanes will not be able to get that back up early here.
Yeah, RBM willing to take in this Rumble even after the nerfs here. He's going to be showing us whether or not it can still have the power we've seen from it previously. Meanwhile, Wildcard, they're going to lock in the LeBlanc for Bradley. They want some aggression coming on out from this mid lane. They want that roaming assassin to be able to go around and shut down members of AoE in these side lanes. They've got these very powerful scaling carries in the form of the Gwen, in the form of the Jinx, and the LeBlanc's job in this game is really going to be to go around with this Volibear and shut them down before they can get started.
Now, with this LeBlanc pickup, I like it first of all because it is a very Bradley style champion. We're talking about mechanical champions, assassins here. That's exactly what it is. And we're talking about the fact that you'll need someone to get past that front line to find that Jinx here. Renekton and Volibear are going to struggle to hit that back line. And we know what happens when you leave a Jinx unchecked to just free fire rockets. It's generally not a good thing for your team. But it's also a good pickup into a potential Rumble mid as well. Because while Rumble jungle has been nerfed, the laning phase is perfectly fine. And Gwen can instead go into the jungle here. So I'm curious to see if AoE will try and maybe lane swap away, get the Rumble into Renekton matchup, and go for set LeBlanc instead. That would both hide your set from the Renekton, which is traditionally a bit of a rougher lane with that shield break that Renekton has, and also will completely nullify LeBlanc. LeBlanc does not do well into a tanky set who just regenerates up most of that poke damage that you put down.
Absolutely the case there. Does feel like this would be a good look for Dark Wings there on that set. And also really going to want to make sure that they have some priority in these lanes wherever they can get it, because like you said, the clear from RBM not going to be quite as powerful as it might have once been here, and that might leave him a little bit susceptible to be punished from the side of Winston. Volibear's slower clear usually might keep him a little bit behind, something like the Rumble in the past, but now that it's the nerf Rumble, this matchup might look a little bit different.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, for the side of Wildcard Red, you've just got strong lanes across the board, right? You've got gank assist, stun from Renekton, you've got death sentence from Thresh, mid lane the chains as well. Wildcard Red don't want to necessarily let this game run into those big 5v5s, right? You've got the Rumble, the red carpet with the Nautilus. That's really, really strong. You've got the Jinx as well later on. So Wildcard Gaming wants to take control early and maintain the control. For area of effect esports, AOE esports here, you're in a bit of a tougher situation. Gwen's not the strongest early. You probably won't have a ton of prio. And Set as well is Set's okay, depending on the matchup. But with that Rumble, with Nautilus Jinx, you don't have a ton of winning lanes, and you just kind of need to be able to stall long enough to be able to just sort of buy time to skill and become that team fighting composition that you drafted.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, for the side of AoE, going to be all about this scaling here, going to be all about managing to survive the early onslaught that's going to be brought in by these picks like the LeBlanc, like what we assume to be the lethality Varus coming through from Arrow. If they're able to let their champions scale on up, come into the team fights well prepared, use the range that this Jinx does provide, then we can really start to see what the power of this AoE comp is going to be. But RBM, he's going to have to do a good job of tracking Winston on this Rumble. He's going to have to be really aware of where all these ganks might come on through. Everybody on AoE going to have to be prepared for those Volibear dives, because if they aren't, they're just going to get blown open early on by the side of Wildcard.
Yeah, and we did get confirmation it is going to be a Gwen top set mid Rumble jungle. So I love the mid lane setup. We talked about it. The set, the Gwen into Renekton. I mean, that's something we've seen before. Renekton wins early. Eyes on Rumble here, Gordo. That's where I'm going to be tracking the early game. Yeah, we know that the bot lane's going to be spicy. Of course, we'll watch that as well. But I've not seen Rumble on patch 11.13 in competitive. I kind of want to see you invade and punish this pick from RBM here. We'll have to see if Wildcard can pull it off.
Yeah, it's got to be what we're expecting from the side of Wildcard here. If that Rumble isn't viable anymore, we can certainly expect Winston and the Wildcard squad to show us why here and now. But first, we're going to have to take a quick break while we get loaded up onto the Rift. Do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back for Game 1 of AOE Esports up against Wildcard Red. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Champions League quarterfinals matchup between AOE Esports and Wildcard Red. We've completed the draft for game number 1 of this best of 5, and now both of these squads take into the rift here to see who is going to be able to make it to that semifinals, who's going to compete for that Proving Ground slot.
Yeah, best of 5 means plenty of time to experiment here, but we're unfortunately not getting any level 1 invades here, Gordo. Both teams are content to, be a little bit careful to start things off, and I'm not sure who I think that favors. As I say that, RBM and Faisal Darkwing's top side, they're getting a little hyphy, just checking for wards.
Yeah, Adaption going to spot out Fizzy here on a little bit of an invade with the help of Arrow. Gonna throw down that ward, knows that it can't be taken down, and gonna return to the river. Call that a scouting victory there for the side of Wildcard Red's bot lane.
Yeah, and I think it's actually pretty important right now to be able to track where the junglers are. I'm not sure if the players are comfortable or know the timings for Rumble's new jungle here with it being slower. So just being able to know where you are is going to give your lanes that much more information for their windows of opportunity to be aggressive here.
And important notes to take for any Rumble jungle mains who don't quite want to give it up at home. RBM is going to be starting off with that Flame Spitter now. You can't really do the overheat on the Scrap Shield at level 1 anymore. Is going to tick over to that level 2 off the red buff and hope to get his jungle off to a good start here on the bottom side.
And I wonder if we are going to see any cheese gangs here, because the analyst desk focused very heavily on sketch streams and arrows. Both sides really were looking down here, and I feel like if you can get any of them ahead right off the bat, it's going to be absolutely massive. Hook's coming out real early, but it's just supports trading. The AD carry is still focused more on the minions than the champions.
Yeah, certainly here. And we can see Brandini going to be a little bit late to this level 2 here. Faisal might go in for some trades with the level advantage while he's got it, but just going to tick over on that Crocodile. Not really going to make too much of a difference one way or the other here in this top lane. And meanwhile, Sketch Dreams and Fizzy, they're going to be pushing in the bottom lane as well. Do appear to have hit their level 2 spike a little bit earlier than the opposition.
Yeah, and for Sketch Dreams and Fizzy here, I'm not sure they're looking to play super aggressive for the most part. I'm not sure they actually tracked Winston on the Raptors. Actually, definitely would have. The ward was there already, so they're going to know that they are safe to push out if they want. And instead, I think it's going to be Faisal here, who has to be a little bit more careful, running Ignite, not Flash.
Yeah, it's a big hook from Daption in the bottom lane, though, pushing Fizzy back. Gets hit by the hail of arrows. He's going to take a fair amount of damage there, be chunked to a little bit less than half HP, but still only level 2 here for the Varus Thresh duo. Don't really have the damage in the tank to be able to bust through that tanky Nautilus quite yet.
Okay, and RBM getting an assist from Faisal here to make sure he secures the scuttle. So despite the fact that Winston's clearing faster, RBM skipping the camp has made the difference, and can potentially actually look for the double scuttle here if he can get down to the bot side. Winston only now realizing is going to get the back off first here. And actually, Sketch Streams and Fizzy going with a bit of a cheater recall. If they get back to lane, they can contest this. They will be just a bit stronger here than Arrow and Daption.
Yeah, good start here for the Rumble in the jungle, although he's going to disregard that second Scuttle Crab. He's going to come up into the top lane looking for a bit of a gank onto Brandini. Going to force the flash there. Faisal going to only commit to the Ignite, so going to be considered definitely a victory for the side of AoE here on this top lane, taking resources away from the Renekton and forcing him into an early recall.
Yeah, he still has teleport, but there's no need to necessarily use it right away if he doesn't want to. As I say that, does opt to do that. And bot side, we do see Daption and Winston roaming up here. Darkwing's the target, but he's so far behind, and the waves right now are pushing against him. So Darkwings can't step out even if he wanted to.
Yeah, just chilling back there, farming with the Haymaker, making sure he can finish off that Siege minion as he does get engaged on by Bradley. Taking a lot of damage here. Bradley gonna flash forward, go for the Ethereal Chains, get him to low HP, and pick up first blood in the 1 versus 1. Darkwing's gonna get the trade back off of the turret kill, but now Arrow getting engaged on in the bottom lane. He's gonna get Dark Passage out of the way here as Winston is there for the backup. Fizzy not long for the world, gonna try to flash on away, but is going to be picked up by the bear. Now RBM has arrived, and the teleport coming on in from Darkwings. He does head on in right away. Arrow gonna be taken on down by RBM. Now they're keeping the fight going on to Winston. Meanwhile, Bradley dives into the backline, looking to get onto Sketch Dreams, who's incredibly low HP. Bradley has to back away. Winston going to hide back out under that turret now. Looks like no more kills going to end up going down. It is an extended 1 for 2 in the bottom lane.
We went from 0 to 100 real quick there, Gordo, starting the mid lane, and every single summoner, except for the smites, just got blown here in this bot lane pretty much. And these teams, we know that we said that they were going to focus the bot lane, but they weren't kidding. Every single member looking down there. I'm sure if the teleports were available for the top laners, we might actually have seen a 5v5 at 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it ends up as a 1 versus 1 or a 1-4-1 at the end of the day. All those resources committed, and really nothing really changes in the grand scheme of things here. The gold is traded pretty evenly. Not even first blood up for grabs, given how Darkwings and Bradley had already gone at it in the middle lane. So really, it just ends up being an 80 carry for support trade. I guess you could say that one goes in the favor of AOE here, but Sketchdreams was still just forced off all the farm and didn't really get an advantage for it.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I just called it dead even for the most part. And we've kind of reset back to the lanes here. The kill distribution went the exact same way. Jungle mid for both sides of the map. So the bot lane still really, really quiet there. Neither AD carry getting any of the kills for the most part. Bradley, though, right now, able to roam up, getting aggressive deep vision in here. And I like to see that starting from the mid lane here because you really want to track where RBM is, especially when the teleports are down.
Brandini face checking into RBM there, going to have to double dash away, but he is going to escape at the end of the day, just has to use the Dominus though. Another little resource chipped away from the Crocodile in the top lane.
Fair enough, yeah, and the needlework is still available for Faisal, but really, until RBM gets that equalizer, unless Brandini is lower than half health, there's not a lot of kill threat here in this top lane. RBM should be hitting that sometime soon, and with the Dominus down, maybe a revisit would work, but it'll be a bit longer before we see that happen.
Darkwings is trading with Bradley here. Bradley goes all the way in there with the ulti chains. Does look like he's going to be able to pick up this kill. The Haymaker has already been committed. Meanwhile, Brandini getting chased down in the top lane. The Equalizer not going to cover his escape route fully, so he is going to be able to dash out of there with the slice and dice. Darkwings able to find the escape as well in the mid lane, but is going to be forced to take that recall. Some aggressive plays here in the solo lanes, but no kills picked up for either side.
Yeah, and that was the regank I was hoping to see up top. Didn't quite come to fruition, and that is going to be a cost to AOE now, because that equalizer is a big ultimate. Dragon is up here, and without that equalizer, Wildcard Red have a small window of opportunity where they have a bit more strength here for this first Drake. It's Inferno too, so added damage, no one's going to say no to that.
Absolutely not. Not on this squad for Wildcard Red for certain here. Bradley going to come out to give the assist. Daption is on the flank to make sure nobody's going for any sneaky plays through the tri-brush, and that is going to be first Dragon of the game going over to the side of Wildcard Red.
Great pickup, and the one I feel worst for in terms of the side of AOE losing this Dragon is Darkwings, because we've already seen Darkwings struggle, and oh dear. It looks like we've got yet another bit of a disconnect here coming through from Fizzy. And just so you know, when we started out the games, Fizzy already had a bit of connection issues, which is why it took us a while to get in. We were waiting out the pause here. Looks like it's happened again. Thankfully, though, Gordo, so far, it hasn't looked like the connection issues affected Fizzy's lane play.
No, certainly not. He and Sketchdreams have been doing pretty well in this bottom lane up against Arrow and Daption. Certainly not getting too many massive issues in the 2 versus 2, which we've seen Arrow and Daption create those 2 versus 2 issues against certain opponents in this tournament already. So being able to stare down that Thresh Varus duo from the side of Wildcard Red, come out even for it on your Jinx, that's got to feel pretty good for the side of AoE given the point in the game we're at.
Yeah, and I believe Sketchdreams right now is down a little bit of CS, so it's not completely dead even. There are small leads from Arrow, but really small leads when you're facing Arrow is already considered not too bad, much less when you're on a Jinx. The Jinx isn't looking to dominate the lane here. You're just looking to skill up fairly uncontested for the most part here. And for AoE, like I said, they've got better skilling. They're not in a rush to make anything happen early. Even that early game sort of 5v5 or 4v4 we saw in the bot lane, that was more them responding to the aggression coming through from Wildcard Gaming.
No, certainly still pretty even across the map here, although something that really is getting me excited here has been Bradley's LeBlanc thus far, has had some great trades with it up against Darkwings' set, was able to pick up the first blood in a 1-for-1 trade, and just now nearly picked up a second kill there, forced Darkwings to take another recall, is looking pretty dominant, even in what we talked about as a really tough matchup for the LeBlanc, one that often can't have these kinds of victories.
Mhm.
So once he's unlocked, once he starts walking around the map looking to provide pressure elsewhere, I'm really excited to see what this guy's going to be able to do.
Yeah, and I'm concerned a little bit for how AoE is going to try and contain this LeBlanc because Rumble isn't necessarily the best jungler to do it here. A lot of times to deal with LeBlanc, the answer is CC and damage. Just kill LeBlanc because death is the hardest CC of all. Rumble's got the damage, but Set doesn't necessarily have the best CC to try and lock down the LeBlanc. Yes, you can phase breaker, yank her in. Maybe you get a bit of a stun off, but she can just distort away here. And instead, I think it's going to be a lot about trying to match her roam, match her movements around the map, and make sure that you've got the bodies there. We already saw, in that bot lane, as long as there's enough people, Bradley does struggle a little bit to try and find those squishy targets in the middle of everybody and get out unscathed.
Yeah, you can imagine the fancy plays where you get to face breaker up against her own clone or something like that, but those are going to be few and far between as far as those opportunities go. And instead, it's really going to be up to somebody else on the side of AoE to really be able to deal with this LeBlanc, to dish out the damage quickly enough, as you were saying. Maybe using the Jinx range advantage, definitely going to be in AoE's cards here for avoiding that LeBlanc, but otherwise, they're really going to need maybe Faisal, RBM, Darkwings between those three and the massive damage that they're going to be able to put out as we go later on into this game. Maybe that's the secret for how you can deal with Bradley's LeBlanc, but definitely going to want to make sure it doesn't get rolling too harshly in this early game.
Yeah, and speaking of the top lane as well, we did actually see the first action came out in the top lane. Granted, there wasn't kills, and we talked about the fact that Faisal, Brandini, they're not really players to take over a game. Faisal's on Gwen. You can take over with Gwen, and more importantly, we're 8 minutes into the game. This is usually where Gwen starts to struggle a little bit in lane, and Faisal is up CS right now, up about 10 CS, up about half a level as well. So hey, maybe the Faisal carry, maybe our caster hot take wasn't that hot after all.
Maybe it was not always happy to be proven right here on the caster's desk, and it does look like we might be coming out of this pause here in just a couple of seconds. We'll stay on cams for just a moment or two longer as we are waiting to see these guys get Fizzy reconnected, get ready to return to the gameplay from these two teams.
I wish I could be that optimistic, or I don't know, man. Like Fizzy's connection issues are pretty bad right now. We'll give him maybe 30 seconds to try and see if Fizzy can sort this out here. So yeah, if you weren't here when the pause started, basically Fizzy is having some connection issues, and we really do hope that he can fix it because we're in the quarterfinals, Gordo. These matches are exciting, and Wildcard AOE, these are both pretty big organizations in the amateur scene. It's been 30 seconds of trying to stall. Fizzy's not back. I think we got to throw this one to a bit of a pause here, Gordo. So without further ado, quick intermission. Hopefully things get fixed back, and we'll be right back. Stick around. Don't leave.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Arisen Champions League quarterfinals. We've sorted out Fizzy's connection issues. We are right back into the action here.
Yeah, and right back into the action, which isn't happening on the map right now. I mean, Fizzy is roaming up with RVM. They are looking to start the Herald, and they actually started in full view of a control ward.
Yeah, it's just up to your definition of actions here, RMC. Walking is an action. Ward clearing is an action. It's they all count at the end of the day. It's much better than the pause we were dealing with earlier, as I'm sure the viewers prefer this to the big screen.
Fair enough. I mean, you traded orange for purple here, but we do see the Eye of the Herald being picked up. RBM does take it, and I want to highlight the good rotation out from Fizzy here. The reason why Wildcard saw but couldn't do a thing was Winston wasn't ready. Daption was slower on that back as well, and Sketchdreams gets a shove, gets the back, doesn't really lose much of anything whatsoever here. It's just a straight up Herald advantage for AOE on that play.
Yeah, absolutely is here. Picking that one up basically for free here. So you can see the man in the mid lane we were talking about a little bit during our intermission, Bradley, developing a nice CS lead for himself there, up about 25, it would appear, in the mid lane matchup. So that's going to even that out a little bit here as this wave crashes, but still just taking a lot of poke here, even right through the Mercury treads. And already on the Lost chapter is Bradley here, so really off to a nice start here.
Yeah, and you can see right now that Dark Wings has very little agency in lane top side, though. Ooh, Winston snuck in, and Faisal has no clue, no flash either.
No, gonna need that skip and slash as his only escape tool here, but he is none the wiser as the dominant's gonna be popped. Now here comes Brandini rushing on in. That's going to be throwing down the invulnerability, but it does not help when they're already at melee range. Winston's in here dishing out the damage. Faisal going to dip into the bush for just a second to stay alive, but is gonna be taken down by the Koldamik from Brandini. Nice kill to the Renekton in the top lane.
Yeah, very nice and clean as well to boot. No vision whatsoever spotting out Winston, and for AOE, they weren't able to make anything happen. They're trying to force it now with the Eye of the Herald. They just want to get some gold here for this bot lane as much as possible, and nothing's changed for AOE. Yeah, they can lose Faisal. It's okay. Their win con is still getting Sketchdreams online.
Yeah, so 160 gold going to head over into Sketchdream's pocket there. Fizzy staying out of the gold generation range there on the Nautilus, making sure he doesn't rob Sketchdreams of any additional power there. As, they are getting closer and closer to these item thresholds, really going to want to make sure that you get to those 2 item spikes on Jinx before the team fights really get started here, and a nice drop in the bucket going to be in the form of those 2 turret plates.
Oh, Winston, the sneaky bear. It worked once, he's trying it again. Did not actually spot that interesting ward there right past the river, just barely. So was spotted out. Isn't going to waste any time, though. So nice attempt. And Sketchdreams, Fizzy, they just kind of go, okay, we're back in, we're shopping. They're not really going to get too much off this particular back here, but they don't die. And you know what? That's a win.
Definitely is here. As long as you're staying alive, you're winning the game, as is the nature of being on the harder scaling composition. Or so you would hope here, as they're going to need to make sure that they are in position to not let this wildcard squad snowball away with too many objectives. They've already picked up the first dragon here. The Ocean going to be the second one means that it's not going to be either of those super valuable souls in the form of the Ocean or the Infernal Soul. Might be a little bit of relief coming to the side of AOE, who are a little bit behind on the Dragon game for the time being.
Mm-hmm. And for AOE right now, they are on the back foot, but I do want to highlight the fact that Fizzy is 6. We see Nautilus paired with Rumble a lot because of the CC chain that can come up the Nautilus, starting the depth charge, you know, followed up by that dredge line as well. And then the stun keeps you on the red carpet for an extended period of time. So I kind of want to see the roam come out with RBM as well. Top side, top laners, they do be fighting, but it doesn't really matter. They've got enough sustain. We've seen it before. Unless they fully commit in all the way here, and I don't think Faisal's going to do that without Ignite. It's just damage that isn't sticking.
Yeah, no, a little bit too much regen there on the side of Faisal. He has the Leeching Leer. And meanwhile, Brandini, he's rocking the Merc Treads. So damage output, not what it will be later on at the very least, as Dark Wings and Bradley going at it once again here. Winston is here for the interrupt. That's going to be the showstopper to try to escape. A lot of damage done to Bradley, but Dark Wings going to have to back on away. Now Winston going to be dived under the mid lane turret,
Deep.
but is going to be able to survive it. Dark Wings avoids too much bear damage there, survives just on the back of his pit grit and shielding, and is going to avoid going down there to the first Stormbringer of the game from Winston.
Yeah, and that was double flashes blown. Both Winston and Bradley blew theirs to try and get that kill. So great play from Dark Wings here. That play, though, is facilitated by all the vision that Wildcard Red have on the bot side. We caught a glimpse of Winston stealing away the red. They also left a whole bunch of wards. So suddenly, this bot side of the map is a no-go zone for AOE here. I want to see the depth charge into the equalizer, but we're probably not going to be able to unless they kind of brute force this one here. TP coming through from Bradley. Wildcard really want to secure the second Drake.
Yeah, and they've got the men down here to do it. Grouping up with 4 members on this side of the map. RBM is all the way up on his blue side looking at that respawning Rift Herald. So that is going to be second Dragon given over to the side of Wildcard Red, now up 2-0 on that objective. Really do expect that third one to be where we see the fight point. Here's Bradley going to blink back to his sigil there, make sure that he's not going to end up getting picked off here by Fizzy and Dark Wings, waiting in the wings.
Yeah, he's fine. It's a LeBlanc. She's called Deceiver for a reason there. Unless you pretty much land that dredge line out of nowhere, Bradley should be able to get out safe. And you were mentioning the Herald as well, Gordo. Well, it's desynced from the Dragon. And there's still another 20 seconds before it comes up. And you can see Wildcard Red, they're in a position to contest it once again here. The roam up from Fizzy is there. And Rocket is available for sketch streams. So if they do want to fight this, despite their gold disadvantage, AOE are actually probably going to be able to fight this on fairly equal grounds.
Yeah, definitely here. Take a look at the gold for both of these sides here. A 1k lead to the side of Bradley, really making sure that he does have the item advantage coming into what looks like it might be a Rift Herald fight.
Fizzy got into that bush unspotted here, but RBM dragged the Herald all the way up to the lane.
Oh, and look at this. There goes that duo you were talking about, RMC. That's going to be the layered down equalizer on top of the dredge line and the depth charge combo. But Brandini is going to be able to flash out there, is going to be able to dominate to keep his health high up enough to survive. He is going to have to disappear back into his base and go for the teleport back in, as Winston and Daption are looking to keep this fight going. Faisal might be a little bit caught out here, going to skip the slash away, but going to be flash blade back on into the team, trying to immune all the skills that he can. The 4 men are right on top of him. They're going to jump Faisal and take him down there for his second death of the game. Another kill going into the pocket of Winston.
Yeah, I mean, Wildcard Red know exactly the limits they can force through. They go chasing in, and Bradley roams up. What is the response here? The thing is, generally when a champion roams, they get punished in their lane. But Dark Wings was in rotation to bot lane, sketch streams into mid. They find no answer whatsoever. Now it's a race between top and bottom. Who can take their turrets first?
Yeah, top looking a little bit ahead here, but Dark Wings, he gets the reset off just in time there. The left hook, right hook, just giving him enough speed to be able to claim the first turret for the side of AOE. So never punished here on the blue side is AOE, as they do manage to pick up the first turret of the game, despite the mishap that just occurred on the top side.
You know your champion's broken when it gives a turret the old 1-2 and breaks it. Darkwing's on this set. I mean, it's struggling in lane, but is winning against the turrets here. Both plans.
Going in here on to the side of Winston. Going to be a showstopper and him right back into the team, but not going to be able to pick up anything else. Now Brandini coming in from the side. He's getting shot by some rockets from sketch streams, though, taking a lot of damage here. There goes the zap. Here comes the super mega death rocket. Just barely going to be avoided there. Nice play by Sketch Dreams there to force the Crocodile out from the side lane. So now they're going to move down towards this Dragon here. Not up for another 2 minutes, but bot lane control going to be established here for the side of AOE. They're going to look to move it into this jungle as they might catch Winston doing his Gromp. That's going to be the stun coming on through. Here comes the ultimate from the Rumble. They're going to force the bear to just stand on top of it and pull off the shutdown. It's really big mean, burns himself down. Another kill. Bradley looking to maybe steal away this Gromp. Not even going to be able to do that, though. It's AOE take control of this bottom jungle.
That was the perfect VIP experience right there. The full red carpet, that's the CC chain we're talking about, and I love the fact that it cuts off Bradley from being able to help out in that fight. Great play from AOE, but here's my problem with it, Gordo. What do you get off the back of that play? Dragon's still down. Herald's still down. you don't get any push into any of the lanes as well. So it's kind of an isolated single pickup they get. And it's fine. Equalizer will be back up in time for Cloud Drake in a minute here. But I want to see AOE find these sort of picks, make these sort of plays when there's an objective up and not just, willy-nilly because there was nothing else better to do.
I definitely agree there, RMC. They do get some vision control over the top jungle, but that's just going to get scanned away here by Daption. You've got to believe they want to fight to hold the vision where they can, but they have to take their resets. They have to spend the gold that they've gained for themselves, and that means they're not really going to be able to do much to maintain that vision lead that they were able to gain for just a short while. Instead, they're just going to be trying to funnel some CS into sketch streams here in the mid lane. He's completed his mythic here, has completed his cull. He's going to look to at least get himself onto a Zeal or something of the sort in time for this next dragon fight, but should not have another opportunity to go for a recall, so it is going to be just the Cloak of Agility for him as this dragon spawn in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, you just need every little bit of power you can get. Checking the items as well while we're at it here, Gordo. Interestingly enough, Rift Maker for RBM on this Rumble. Now, that's not something we see too much of here. Wow, okay, they're dropping Herald. They're forcing mid to try and get Pry over Dragon.
Yeah, they're going to throw it right on over that bird wall there, and they are going to be able to pick up the mid lane turret, but now here comes the rest of AOE trying to contest for this dragon. The teleport coming on in, but might be a little bit late here. They're going to secure the dragon, but what about the follow-up fight? Winston going to dive on in with the Stormbringer, but he's taking way too much damage from Sketch Dreams, who is untouched here. He's going on to Brandini next, going to take him down as well. The Jinx is getting excited. It's getting the resets. Faisal going to pick up another kill onto Daption, and it is a 3-for-0 in favor of AOE. Bradley coming on around here, trying to pick up a kill onto Fizzy. Is going to be able to get that one. Trades one back, but still going to be a 3-for-1 in favor of AOE on the team fight. Now Bradley might find himself caught on out here, trying to W over the wall. Is going to be able to do so. Nobody left to chase him any farther. Darkwing still is going forward, but ends up just punching the clone and punching a ward. They're going to back on away for the time being.
You know what? I think AOE are going to be happy with that there. They do manage to start bringing their team fighting to bear here. It's been so hard trying to force Wildcard Rit to actually stand and fight, and they've been dragging them all around the map. So that's going to be nice for them. That said, they did lose Dragon, and we are now at Soul Point. Cloud Soul isn't usually considered sort of the scariest of souls here, but you're already facing a LeBlanc who is so mobile and hard to pin down. The Volibear as well, and the Renekton. If they can run fast enough and access your Jinx, that is going to be a problem. So AOE, they've got to start, trying to defend these Dragons a little bit better, making sure they're in position. They won't have to worry about a Herald drop the next time, but Baron is up, and that is something that they will also have to watch while looking at Dragons.
Absolutely the case here. Baron going to be a sole objective on the map now for about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Want to see how these two squads are going to fight for vision around the top side river. You can see Faisal doing his part there. Throws down a pink in the ping brush. It's going to disable a few more wards here. This really big meme. Threatening once again with that equalizer. It's going to have to be respected by Daption and Arrow.
And so before that fight started out, I was talking a little bit about items. Rift Maker for RBM here is not something we see a lot on Rumbles. It gives you more survivability with the Omnivamp there, but at the same time, I'm not sure that's what they need. We also see Duskblade coming out for Arrow here, and that seems to be what the Varustas have gone to now that Prowler's Claw has lost 3 lethality. Personally, I'm not sold that it's still the better item here, and I'm going to be looking at Arrow here to see if he can make use of that passive, or if he can make use of the ability haste. Because so far, we're not seeing the Varus just chuck out arrows on cooldown, nor are we seeing Chains of Corruptions being flung willy-nilly. So I'm still not sold on picking ability haste over lethality.
Yeah, definitely something we want to keep an eye on here is what they are going to be accomplishing with those items in particular. It's the bottom lane turret going to go down to the side of Bradley. Just want to try to equalize across the map here, and that is going to give Wildcard the turret lead as they finish off the last of the outer turrets. So the Fizzy waiting around for Daption here, has RBM in the bush as well. Going to be potentially spotted out of here. There's the flash engage coming through onto Arrow, and he's got nowhere to go. Depth charge on top of the equalizer going to melt right through the Korean 80 carry, and he is going to fall on down. AOE now 5 versus 4 on the map are looking at this Baron.
I don't think they have quite enough damage yet. Darkwing's Dub does have teleport right now, and they accidentally hit it. So it started up for now. Good. I'm glad they wisely backed off. We've seen teams throw at Baron, and at 22 minutes, sure, you've got the Rift Maker on Faisal, you've got the Kraken Slayer onto Sketch Streams here, but it just doesn't feel like it's enough necessarily to deal with Renekton, Volibear diving your backline, and Bradley 2-1 on a LeBlanc doesn't sound too scary, but Bradley has been an absolute force right now for Wildcard Gaming, has been the one to really find their way into the backline, find this Jinx, find this Gwen.
Yeah, definitely here. So going to be just some vision cleared away from the Baron from the side of Wildcard Red. Nothing more to really be gained off of that pick on Arrow, though more gold to be funneled over into the side of Really Big Meme. He's 3-0-3 on this Rumble now, has the Zonias completed for this next fight. Want to see who he's going to be able to burn down and how much he is going to be able to accomplish on the Rumble pick, which, you know, we had our doubts about coming on into the day, but so far looks very similar to the Rumble we've seen as of late.
Yeah, I mean, basically, once you get past that sort of first, second clear for the most part, Rumble is Rumble. Once you get items, he will clear roughly at the same speed here. And right now, it's the mid game. It's where Rumble really tends to shine. So AOE, they're starting to get comfortable. They're hitting the breakpoints they want to be at. And it's really down to Wildcard Red to try and stop this skilling from happening. You've got a Volibear, you've got a Renekton. Neither of them are late game champions. And as much as Bradley has done so far, Bradley needs to find more still. They're relying very heavily on this assassin to find the backline. And Arrow as well, actually, has not really been able to do much. TP from Bradley down into the bot side.
Yeah, definitely. It's now Bradley coming around from the backside, going to distort over the wall there, and maybe going to blink back, maybe not. So he is looking to just regroup back with his team, to not really get the flank angle onto any squishies, as now Sketchstream's just clearing away on the mid side. Darkwing's going to be chunked out a little bit there, down to about half HP. Does have the pit grit to regen him back up, but instead he's just going to take the recall. He's going to look to teleport back on in, but they have to be very careful. This is Soul Dragon here, RMC.
Yeah, and that's why we're seeing them try and force this fight here. TP is available for Darkwings, but I want to see him here before. If he waits for that 4-second channel, might be too late. He's on the back lines.
All right, here comes Darkwings going on in, but it's going to be Bradley just one-shotting Really Big Meme before the fight can even get on started. Fizzy now left all alone. He's going to get taken down by Winston. The damage trying to be dealt out here by Sketchstream, trying to be dealt out by Faisal, but they're going to get finished off by the Bear as well. Triple kill goes over to the side of Winston. Sketchstream's get chased down as well, and it's a 5-for-0 ace for the side of Wildcard Red. They're going to claim the Dragon Soul off of that, and certainly the Baron as well.
That's just, we're talking about, Gordo, the fact that AoE's comp is starting to come online. Wildcard to say no, they slammed the door shut and they use the dragon as bait. Very, very unfortunate. And we talk so much about Bradley needing to step up. He did. Finding the initial pick, using the clone as well to block the rocket was massive, and that's what nets them the clean 5-for-0 here.
Yeah, super well played there by the side of Wildcard. They blow this game wide open. They claim themselves the Cloud Soul. They claim themselves the Baron, and they are now well in the driver's seat for this game, looking to continue to snowball onto the face of AOE.
Yeah, and with the Baron buff in their pockets as well. So far, AOE has only taken the outer turret, so it's a little bit difficult to push all the way into the inhibs, but there's a lot of standing gold for them right now. 5k gold lead here, and it felt like AOE was able to stabilize. That should balloon right here with Soul in their pocket. In 5 minutes time, if Wildcard hasn't broken the base open yet, AOE still faces a very tough choice when Elder and Baron are both up. When they don't feel like at this point they have a great answer to Bradley, even potentially just split pushing here.
Yeah, no, and Really Big Meme just getting picked off instantly really does seal the deal for that fight there. He's got so much gold invested onto this Rumble from the side of AOE that once they lose him, it's really very low on resources for the side of AOE to be able to take these fights. They need to find a way to keep RBM safer coming into these team fights. But now that the gold lead has been ballooned so high for Wildcard, are really going to find less and less of those opportunities.
Yeah, Darkwing's trying to take that turret there. I appreciate the thought, but you lost 2 inners for an outer here, and you need to be back right now. You don't have TP to rejoin the rest of your team, and I thought they wouldn't be able to crack an inhibitor. They definitely can right now. Double siege minions, and there's no wave clear coming out right now. Sketchstreams can't get in range.
No, really cannot. Finally is going to be able to step up onto that wave, but that's while Brandini is crashing a wave in mid. Faisal trying to respond to that one. They are going to lose that bottom turret. just no answers here from the side of AOE. They can't find the engage angle they were looking for. They need to find some kind of crazy hook from their Nautilus onto a squishy, but Bradley and Arrow, they're playing this far too intelligently for such shenanigans, and just going to dash on in there, get a big chunk on a really big meme, and that's all it takes. Rumble's got to retreat now, and that's going to be 2 inhibitors ripe for the pick-in for Wildcard Red.
3 completed items from Bradley here. Death Cap, Ludens, as well as Void Staff. You've got magic resist, doesn't matter. You've got no magic resist, you don't matter here right now. Bradley is just absolutely terrorizing. That's 1v3. Everybody else is sitting outside the base, and AOE do not dare to try and aggress on this Deceiver.
Yeah, no, certainly not. Now you see the enemy, and now you don't from the side of Bradley as well. Now they're going in for the engage. They've thrown down the death charge. Here's the teleport. A little bit late. Bradley's going to be long gone by the time that matters. Fizzy chunked down incredibly low, but is going to be able to escape. Darkwings now is the next target. He's going to get melted through by Arrow. Faisal trying to keep the fight going, but he's in a 1 versus 4. Going to get flayed back on in. Going to get taken down by Brandini. It's a 2 for 0. Once again in favor of Wildcard Red, and this might be the moment they were waiting for. They might be able to crack open the base right here.
Baron just wearing out right now, but you've got supers, you don't care. Sketch Streams trying to mount a defense, no equalizer either, so this has to be huge.
Yeah, here's the fight, but RBM just going to get 1 shot here. As now Brandini going to dive into the backside, going in for Sketch Dreams. He is the last man standing, and this Jinx cannot 1v5 at 29 minutes into the game. Instead, it's going to be Wildcard Red. Oh, as there we go! A little bit of an attempted magic trick there from the Deceiver herself, but Bradley and Arrow no longer visible as they are going to fall on down, but Wildcard Red claim themselves game number 1.
Ooh, boy, Gordo. I mean, we were talking about, it's all about the bot lane, it's going to be all about Sketch Streams versus Arrows. It wasn't. It was the Bradley show from start to finish there. The LeBlanc up, 80 CS towards the end of the game. On paper, I liked the set into LeBlanc. I knew that set was going to get bullied early, but it wasn't just bullying early. It was start to finish. Bradley just had Darkwing's number. Darkwings did not get to play the game here. And why I don't think you necessarily need to ban the LeBlanc, or I'm not sure what you'd open to ban the LeBlanc. I do think that AOE might need to reconsider how to deal with it here, whether it be a different pick instead of that set, maybe using the Gwen instead, or whether it be just sending more pressure in there, getting RBM, getting Fizzy into that mid lane a little bit more to relieve pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. A great performance there from Bradley and the West of Wildcard Red there. Really excited to see that LeBlanc coming on out here in the competitive scene. A huge amount of autonomy on that champion for Bradley, and he makes his presence felt. Going to throw it over now to our analyst desk to hear them break on down that game that we just saw.
And welcome back to the analyst desk here, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my name's DJ, joined by Elijah and Taco. And I think RMC said it best here, gentlemen. We had a lot to say about the bottom lanes, and there was a Jinx drafted for Sketch Streams to try to allow him to carry. But this game, among other things, largely became about that R5 LeBlanc for Bradley as he played that counter pick to mostly perfection in this game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think the drafting was pretty good from both sides. Wildcard probably got what they want with the early Varus angle, but I do have mixed feelings about the Jinx pick. I was informed that it was Ezreal banned, so he couldn't really pay Ezreal and Tristana. So there wasn't really a lot of self-peeling AD carry options, so I guess the Jinx, he was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to run at them, try and get as many kills, and then he just kept getting killed over and over, and then game's already over by the time he's scaling up.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Sketch not able to quite get it done there on that Jinx, but there were some moments here from AOE, right? That third Drake, they didn't get the Drake, but you could see kind of the scaling aspects of this composition coming online, and this is something we were talking about here between Elijah and Matt during that game about those scaling options, about how AOE could kind of grow into this game. But Elijah, I know in particular, we want to talk about that fight around the soul and maybe why you had a couple of questions about AOE's setup.
Yeah, so I think the setup itself was mostly fine, but it's more the idea that losing soul in that game doesn't necessarily lose you the game, right? Giving away Cloud Soul to Wildcard at that stage, I think, is totally fine. In fact, you're in a decent spot to be able to fight over Elder when it comes along. Why would you take a fight that you're not necessarily ready for over a soul that doesn't matter, in my opinion, right? over a soul that doesn't matter when you could take a fight in 5 minutes over Elder and just win the game off that, right? If anything, I thought it would have been a little bit better to set up around Baron the same that they're setting up around Soul and make them kind of make some tough decisions, right?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing also about the way they played fights is they comboed Rumble ult terribly with the teleports. I remember the last dragon fight, they Rumble ulted on the right side, and then they TP'd right into the middle of all the tanks. What do you think's gonna happen when you're not gonna chain your Rumble ult with your teleports? You're gonna die. And then the last fight as well, Rumble ult goes down, hits like 2 minions, and then they try and TP behind. Gwen can't do anything because the rest of her team's just dead.
Yeah, some miscommunications there. And that wasn't the only occasion as well. I know some early game from both of the teams kind of catching your eye, Elijah, as to some of the setup. And maybe this is some of the details you can talk to us about here are kind of building on your point early in the day that AoE has not looked that clean in this tournament. And it seems that that might be the case here today.
Yeah, I feel like giving away a solo kill to LeBlanc super early. Granted, it was traded back. Really kind of ruins a lot of stuff for the set lane, right? Because the reason you pick the set is to be able to have him kind of get unlocked from that lane and look for good 2v2 with your jungler. Look for spots where you can really look to do something with the set. But once you fall behind against LeBlanc, what ends up happening is she gets to her chapter and she starts to like run over the lane, run over the game, right? So dying there is super, super rough. On top of that, seemed like a fundamental misunderstanding of both teams on how jungle pathing worked. Level one, game one, you have a pretty predictable top lane gank on Brandini, starting off the game, leading to a very predictable bot lane gank on Sketch Streams and and Fizzy, and it led to a lot of summoners being burned and fights that didn't need to happen, and in all reality shouldn't have happened, right? If you understand the way that the pathing necessarily works.
Right, and if those fights don't happen, right, maybe there is more time for AoE, and I think that's a lot of things. A lot of what we talked about with their composition was time was definitely on their side when we looked at these two drafts. For sure, Wildcard Red had options into the later stages of the game, but certainly wasn't going to be as easy for them, Taco.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that they just kind of played that bot fight early, set them behind really far. I do want to commend them of being able to bring it back. Part of that is on Bradley playing his lane relatively perfect and then being able to just go wherever else he wants to on the map. Being able to stack up those dragons. Winston also under the radar had a really good game as well behind Bradley, but I think Wildcard Red did a pretty good job getting themselves back into the game after some early some early issues.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I really want to kind of talk about here really quickly, before we kind of get into the next point, is that taking Varus in this series feels like kind of a free key to win bot lane, right? With Tristana banned and with Ezreal banned, there's not really a lot of good answers into Varus, until you really start to look at the mages, right? I don't know if either team here is playing the mages, but seeing specifically a Ziggs pick come out today would be very, very excellent. I feel like if you want to win this series, you have to be able to pick up Ziggs, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, Taco. I mean, if you want to elaborate on that, I know you've already had someone on your team is playing the Ziggs a little bit, so maybe talk to the strengths of that champion for this potential matchup.
Yeah, Wildcard Red or Wildcard Black, sorry. We think Ziggs is an amazing champion against Varus with his range. Ziggs able to farm pretty well. If you want to play a support that can roam out of lane, Ziggs is perfectly fine. W is kind of a bit of a wonky self peel, but the damage he provides in team fights, the way he scales up, the fact that he's an AP damage source, so you can go those 80 junglers. You can build maybe a kindred comp. That's what we did personally, but I think Ziggs is just a pick that's not being contested at all for some reason in Tavares.
All right, then
Yeah.
in that case, oh, sorry, go ahead, Elijah.
No, I was just agreeing. Absolutely.
All right, in that case, we've talked a little bit about the recap from game number one. We've kind of hinted at potentially a Ziggs and whether that can be played or not, but I do want to play a little bit of Doctor here as we go into game number two. Elijah, you predicted that if game one didn't go in AoE's favor, they were going to get 3-0'd here. If you are the AoE coach, the players here, what are you doing in this game two draft to try to overcome that prediction?
Well, I can't really speak on what they've been working on scrims, right? I think that if they have an option to play into the Varus, they should break it out now because it's going to keep getting picked, right? Otherwise, I think taking the Varus and maybe looking to play a poke style would be a little bit better going into game two. But if they keep trying to just run back Jinx, especially without the Thresh, because they've been playing so much Jinx Thresh through Cup and through Risen, if they try to just keep running back the same stuff, they're going to get 3-0'd.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wildcard had a bit of a shaky game one. I was actually kind of surprised at the way they played like those early jungle gank fights, but I still have the belief. I still think for game two they're gonna come pretty solid, and I'm just gonna have to see if AOE responds better in draft.
All right, you've heard it here from our analysts after Wildcard Red cleaned up game one. We have had a swap of sides, so we will have Wildcard Red drafting from blue side this time around. We'll see if that changes the fortunes, but we'll be guided through those fortunes by our casters, Gordo and RMC. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you, DJ. Happy to be right back here on the broadcast with RMC. And we are just about to get into draft for game number 2 here. As was already alluded to, going to be Wildcard Red on the blue side this time. AOE now maybe have an opportunity to see a little bit more of what Wildcard is going for and adapt as such.
Yeah, and our analyst desk, a little critical of both the teams and how things have played out. It is game one, and we're expecting to sort of clean things up here. In terms of the drafting, though, they didn't seem to be overly critical of what was drafted for the most part, with the exception of the Jinx. So I really do feel like it's up to AOE to decide how they want to change this up. They picked that Jinx B4 on the second round here of picks and bans, and you know what? Like maybe you picked that a little earlier. It is going to be wildcard red on blue side, and because they are blue side, they are one Varus here. They're probably going to do it again, and AOE either has to ban it or they've got to play some sort of counter to it here.
Yeah, absolutely. It really has to be called into question whether or not you have to ban away Arrow's Varus because the dude's got a champion Ocean. He's going to
Yeah.
play something else and he's going to play it to an incredibly high level. I almost wonder now if you want to pick something earlier for sketch dreams, though, before he can get his pool so pinched on out. He had his Tristana band and his Ezreal band, as well as, I believe, another pick of his. Yeah, the Kaisa was banned away from him as well in that game number 1 draft. So, Jinx was the 4th string AD carry based purely on the order of those picks and bans. So maybe you pick the numbers 1 through 3 if you can get them, and maybe that sets Sketchstreams up for a little bit more success. He looked good on the Jinx. Maybe he looks even better on a higher prio pick.
Potential here. The problem being, of course, that if you do pick the Kaisa's laning into Varus isn't amazing either. It doesn't really address the problem. And Ezreal to me is a bit of a more dangerous pick right now. Divine Cinder did get nerfed for ranged champions, and that has taken down Ezreal's priority. It's still strong, and I don't want to say that it's not going to work against the Varus. It's just more you're avoiding the Varus than you're actually dealing with the Varus here. So maybe it's a support pick that they need to change up a little bit. Nautilus has worked for them before, but I do believe actually Fizzy doesn't play very much Nautilus, or not at least competitively so far. Has actually not played it a single time. Today is his first Nautilus here. So if anything, I think a Leona would have done better into the Varus here. You don't have to worry about minion block or champion block. So maybe a bit of the ADC change, maybe a bit of the support change.
Yeah, now we are getting on into this draft here. Lulu going to be the first one to hit the ban table for the side of Wildcard Red. Still not wanting to give that one over to the side of AOE.
Yep, Lulu being taken out. And that is a bit of a change from what we saw in game one. Lulu actually completely not banned through the entire process. Neither was Karma. But I guess when you switch sides, you do change things. You can first pick that Xin Zhao. You can first pick that Viego as well for yourself. And it's really up to AoE to try and decide what they want to deny. For now, they're still going with the Akali, still going with the Nocturne.
Yeah, absolutely going to be sticking with those ones here. The Thresh going to hit the ban table as well for the side of Wildcard Red. We saw that one picked away by them in the first game, so now deciding Adaption probably not going to be able to get it on the blue side. Want to make sure they do not end up giving it over to Fizzy. And Karma going to join that one too for the trifecta of support bans from the side of Wildcard Red.
Okay, a lot of focus onto Fizzy here, and Well, I would say it's not even onto Fizzy, actually. It's more probably onto Faisal, who has been playing these support picks in the top lane. The Thresh, definitely, though, Fizzy. The day we see Thresh top is the day we know it's gone too far.
Definitely, definitely. As now the Xin Zhao going to hit the ban table as well, so we're going to make sure that even though the enchanters are already taken away, they still do not want to risk that man coming through in the jungle with his spear. So now Wildcard, they got the first pick in their palm. Do they want the Varus for the side of Arrow again? You got to believe that it's got to be pretty high on their priority list, but instead it's the Viego being hovered. Will it be locked on in here?
I mean, there's so many OP picks, right? Gwen's open, Viego's open, the Varus that works so well in game one is open. All of them are available, and I love that AOE kind of put them in that situation. Well, actually, Wildcard did that to themselves with the support bans, and now AOE, you can potentially pick up the Varus for yourself as well. While Sketchstreams hasn't played a ton of Varus in the amateur scene yet, he has played a lot of it in solo queue. It's not a terribly hard champion to pick up, and of course, Gwen is still open. Granted, Faisal didn't have huge impact on the game with the Gwen, but he didn't lose on it as well. And I think, like the analyst desk was talking about, like Elijah was saying, time is on your side with that Gwen here. You can just slow it down. And if they had maybe 5-10 more minutes, Faisal probably would have come online a lot harder.
Yeah, certainly here. So now the Gwen going to be coming through once again, assuming that that one is going to be for the side of Faisal. And now you could take away the Varus from the side of Arrow. You could also pick another priority pick for your bot laner there. But instead, it's going to be the Lee Sin, still very prized here as a solo laner and a jungler, even after his latest round of nerfs. And could potentially be flexed between mid and jungle here for the side of AoE.
Okay, so this must mean surely that AoE has something prepared for this Varus here. The fact that you didn't pick it, Lee Sin, last night we saw it being used by RBM here into the jungle rather than by Darkwings in the mid lane. It does decently into the Viego, and Viego, we should probably touch on the fact that was nerfed as well. Has a lot less sustain, 50% healing from minions. So there's a decent chance as well that Viego ends up in the jungle here for Winston.
Yeah, and RMC, I have a pretty good idea of what the pick into Varus might be from the side of AoE here. That Tristana that was banned away in game number 1 has not hit the ban table as of yet in this draft here. So this is Sketchstream's opportunity here to lock on into that signature pick. He's only got 1 loss on it this season thus far in competitive. Might want to keep that streak going here if he is able to lock it on in for himself here on the R3.
Yeah, and we heard it on the analyst desk as well. It is a good pick into the Varus, in lane as well as out of lane in these team fight, the range you get. And sure enough, they lock it in here. And from Wildcard Red, I am now expecting them to start targeting the support pool a little bit here, because Leona has traditionally been a counter to that Nautilus, works very, very well with that Tristana. AoE, on the other hand, they're learning from mistakes. Bradley does not get LeBlanc again.
Yeah, if you're any other team in this tournament right now, the alarm bells start going off, and you're like, oh no, we got to ban supports right now because we've already started facing down off against Sketchstreams as Tristana, and we know how dangerous that hit can be. But this time, though, you are Wildcard Red. You have Arrow in the bot lane. He's been here before. He's been in places a lot higher than this before, and he should be confident coming on into this matchup up against Sketchstreams. He's willing to give him his Tristana, but the bans are going to come through on the support pool nonetheless, and that's a nice look from AoE here. They ban away the LeBlanc, do not want to deal with Bradley on that champ again.
Yeah, and that really felt like the bulk of the issues that they were having in their game. Now, if they are thinking of potentially sending Lee Sin to a lane, we might see a Renekton ban. Nope, okay, they just go with the Silas ban. That's just another strong carry style champion that Bradley plays, and it looks like they're just trying to remove those off the table here. In game 1, it was the Lucian that they banned against Bradley. That's still on the table, though it probably wouldn't fare too well into, say, the likes of a Lee Sin here.
Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. The Braum looking like it might be the ban here from the side of Wildcard. So support pool, well and truly pinched here as the Nautilus has been taken away, the Leona as well. I'm going to assume that was a locked-in Braum ban, but I'm sure we'll be getting word as to what it was soon enough. And that leaves Alistair, which is going to be immediately locked in here for the side of AoE. They are going to save what might be their jungler, what might be a solo laner for the very last pick of the draft, and they're going to take the cow down there in the support position.
Perfect prediction there from you, Gordo. It was indeed Braum being removed away here from the pool of AoE. But yeah, Alistair does the same thing as Leona in terms of disengaging for that Nautilus here. And you still have the sort of kill threat. Granted, it's not quite as strong here, and Eclipse is on a lot shorter cooldown. Wildcard, though, picking their jungler, and they are going with a Kindred potentially here, and then Volibear into the top lane?
That is what we're looking at right here, right now, RMC. I'm sure we'll wait for the lock in here to get final word on what that is going to be on the last pick, but that Kindred's locked in, as far as I know. Hearing a little bit of confusion from production, but we will find out soon enough if that is what's going to be locked on in. And here is the Volibear as well. This looks like a Volibear top to me, RMC. Until I hear otherwise, I'm going to act like it's here.
Okay, so the reason why I'm a little hesitant is because there is a dark tech floating around right now for Kindred in lane. I have heard about it. I have heard bad things about it. So I'm really hoping that isn't what we're seeing. And we get word. Okay, so it's not a Kindred, it's an Orianna. Okay, that
The
makes
two
a lot
most
more sense to
different
me.
champions, as they're not even close to each other in the alphabet, but somehow the pro draft feeds us the Orianna when in reality the Kindred is the truth, and now or feeds us the Kindred when the Orianna is the truth, and now it's going to be the lock on in for the side of Darkwings. He is going to take the victor into that Orianna. It's like we're right back at the beginning of the season, RMC. We've got these control mage matchups in the middle lane. And we're going to see these two guys, we were talking about it in the pregame, these two traditional mage players coming at each other on the traditional mages.
Yep, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love Darkwings on these control mages here. If we look at what we've ended up drafting ourselves, they're kind of just standard front to back compositions for the most part for these teams, right? You've got your Tristana and your backline with your Victor, Alistair in the front, Lee Sin, Gwen. They're going to be the ones going in, hunting down for the side of AOE. Wildcard red here. You've got Varus in the backline. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lethal tempo Varus coming out this game, perhaps, with that Orianna as well. You've got the ball delivery systems with the Nautilus, with the Volibear, and even with Viego, you give a bit more of that shielding. You let him run in there and just kind of carve up all these front liners for the side of AOE. So the team fight's going to be fairly standard. And what to me is going to be more interesting is how the lanes play out here, Gordo. The fact that we've got potentially Gwen versus Viego in the top lane, both of sort of the broken champions. And I don't think we've really decided, or there's been a consensus as to who wins that particular lane here. You've got Lee Sin versus Volibear. And Lee Sin is a very proactive ganking junglers. With Tristana, Alistair, and Victor, you've got lane set up once again here. Last time we didn't get to see RBM really pop off in the early game. This time, you don't really have an excuse not to, unless the Volibear on the other side is counter ganking. And in the mid lane, I think I favor Lee Sin Victor over Orianna Volibear.
Yeah, I can definitely see that one here, although gonna have to wait and see how the ganks actually get on executed there. Of course, the Sonic Wave always going to be the big decider in these sorts of 2v2 fights. And really, as you said, curious about that top lane. Both really powerful scaling picks. Both of these new Shadow Isles champions going to be facing off against one another here. It's very often that one or both of them are hitting the ban table, so getting to see them face off is certainly going to be a treat for everyone involved. And it's going to be between Faisal and Brandini, two laners that, we've been memeing on the fact that they do just get to sit up there on an island all game, that their teams pretty much do hang them out to dry and leave them to fight it out. So we'll certainly have a solid answer for how the Viego versus Gwen lane goes by the end of this game, presuming that these teams play the way that we expect them to.
Yeah, I was already surprised enough when we saw the gangs come out early last game into the top side, even though they were, as Elijah mentioned, fairly telegraphed there. This time, you know what? If the teams do leave their top laners on an island, it's not inting. It's tactical isolation. They're just giving them, letting them play farming simulator so they can join the game later, League of Legends. But once again, bot side, that's where I think we're going to see the bulk of the action. Orianna Victor tends to be fairly static till they get their ultimates, or unless there's jungle intervention for the most part. But Nautilus wants to go in. Alistair wants you to come on in here. And with Tristana, with Varus, if it is Hail of Blades Varus, he can actually match Tristana in terms of early game damage output here once you hit, that level 2, level 3. And, well, Tristana, we all know and maybe don't love her so much because of that level 1, level 2 dominance that she exerts in all her lanes.
Yeah, and this is Sketch Dreams' moment to live up to the hype here. You know, Grapes made that whole video talking about his win rate on Tristana and his ridiculous performances thus far. Big shout out to him. And you know, now Sketch Dreams, he gets to be the man behind the meme. He gets to show everybody that hey, I can face off even against Arrow, the pretty much unanimous best AD carry in the amateur scene in North America right now. And if you could beat him on the Tristana, then you could beat anybody on the Tristana.
Yeah, don't let Tristana for Skep Streams just remain a meme, right? Like, just go in there, kill everyone, pop off. 17-1. That's the incoming record here, and we'll have to see if they're able to do that, or whether Arrow can be only the second person in competitive for Sketch Streams here to actually hand him a loss on Tristana.
Yeah, definitely going to be a title Arrow wants to add to his already very full trophy case. But we are going to now take a quick break while we get loaded on into that game number 2. But do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back with game number 2 of Wildcard Red up against AOE in the Risen Champions League quarterfinals. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Championship Series quarterfinals matchup between Wildcard Red and AOE Esports. We got a little bit of a side swap coming on through for game number 2. Wildcard Red looking to repeat their red side victory from game 1 on the blue side. This time around, AOE, of course, with Sketchstreams on his Tristana, looking to clap back and tie us up at 1-1.
I feel like you're just trying to squeeze as many colors as you can there, Gordo, into one sentence there. Wildcard red, blue. That's all we need to know. AOE red here. And again, not a ton of level 1 action. There were actually some pings down into the bot lane, so I was hoping that we get to see some cheese, you know, like the Varus and the Nautilus hiding in there, trying to find that level 1 on Sketchstreams or Fizzy. But it doesn't happen. We do see both junglers, though, looking to be on the top side for now. I do believe they did spot each other out, so we might get to see a little bit earlier action this game around the scuttles on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, and if that does happen, we want to be keeping an eye out here on the bottom lane, because whoever has that priority, whoever is able to get the shove in, is going to be there first to be able to help on out their jungler, and are, of course, going to have 2 members there to be able to do so. It's going to be a big influencer on this bottom scuttle fight if it does play out that way.
Taption already trying to clear out the wards here. Both supports actually starting with those sweepers as well to make sure that they can try and get bush control. And it's going to be super important with this Alistar and with this Nautilus, because they're both engaged supports here who do want to get some fights early, who are more than happy to brawl it out.
Absolutely here, and it does look like Arrow and Daption have taken control over this wave early on. This might be expected here with the power that Nautilus does bring out. Does a lot of damage with the staggering blows, as well as the hook there. Might be a little tough for Fizzy to go blow for blow up against that Nautilus in the level 1 state. Now they're just trying to pick up whatever farm they can, but level 2 almost certainly going to be a hit first for the Wildcard Red bottom lane.
Yeah, but the thing is, even if they do get that early lead, you can already see the trading is going to be fairly even here. Fizzy is going to be A-okay, and the new wave is coming up. I'm more concerned about the jungles coming in, and we saw the early ward coming out from Arrow. You have to, if you're going to be pushing out here. RBM did skip Krugs as well, so should arrive at this bot lane just a little bit sooner here than Winston.
Yeah, just has to keep an eye on here as to whether Daption and Arrow are going to come on up to mess with him at the crab. Winston is going to want to go for that one here, presumably fairly soon after he finishes on up these bottom side camps. And RBM, he's not going to have a lot of options available if that does happen. There's a big wall in between Fizzy and Sketchstreams and that precious crustacean. They are not going to be able to get over there if it does come to that.
Okay, Winston once again skipping on Krugs here. Will not spot out RBM, but RBM sees the Scryer's Bloom go by, and it's Darkwings rotating first.
All right, Darkwing's coming on in here, trying to contest onto that. Winston going to be able to smite down the crab, but now he's getting engaged on by a really big meme. Going to have to likely flash over this wall, but actually just uses the pressure of his team to force Darkwing's back. Now here comes the fight getting started onto Daption. Darkwing's going to jump on in there, going to get exhausted. The teleport coming on in here for the side of Brandini. He gets onto Fizzy. Fizzy going to have to flash away. Darkwing's going to have to find it. Brandini is over there now, looking to finish off the execute on a Sketchstreams. Is able to do so. Now here's Faisal in the backside, trying to get some kills, but is just going to get taken down himself. Sketch going to fall as well. It is a 3-for-2 in a banger fight in the bottom lane. Goes over to the side of Wildcard Red.
I love it, Gordo. Last game, Taco and Elijah saying, why did they fight bot? It was so telegraphed. Once again, the pathing was telegraphed. They knew exactly where they were coming from, and they opt once again into 5v5, and Wildcard just coming out a little bit ahead. Houdini was stronger in the top lane already, so when both of them TP'd down, Houdini just had that much more impact, was a level up as well. And the fact that Winston didn't burn flash, the nerve to hold on to that definitely came back huge when he could flash to escape later on.
Yeah, crucially though, those are 2 kills that end up going into Faisal's pocket to compare to only 1 from Brandini. If you could accelerate yourself ahead on this Gwen, we know that she can take over games, and it's a big hook coming through from Daption, shutting down Darkwings early on. It's going to be one more clockwork wind-up auto from Bradley, and he picks up the kill in the mid lane. 4-2 on the scoreboard for the side of Wildcard Red.
Safeguard from RBM just a second too late, and Winston gets to nab some of those Raptors as well there. The roam from Daption, we saw it from Fizzy last night, really good support roams, but Daption just moving faster on that back, coming from the top side as well, where it wasn't warded, where there was a control ward. Darkwings off to a bit of a rough start. Faisal into an even deeper hole as well in this top lane, and everything's coming up Wildcard Gaming Red. AOE can't even rely on just skilling to the late game this game. They actually have fairly even mid to late game, so they need to make sure they don't continue to fall behind right now in this early game.
Definitely going to be something to keep their eye out on. And, you know, I just praised Faisal for picking up those 2 kills and for getting himself ahead in this top lane. But look at the CS. He's getting doubled by Brandini here in this top lane, having a lot of trouble up against this Viego, kills or no kills. And really at risk here of getting zoned off of even more, as now he's back to even in levels, but you got to believe that Brandini's got a lot more combat power with that Phage sitting in his inventory, and now has level advantage as well.
Yeah, and RBM's nowhere nearby. RBM's looking to bot side, to sketch stream, so this win con that AOE have kind of set themselves up for right now. So, Faisal, you're alone in that island, and if anything, you need to be scared for Winston looking in the top lane.
Yeah, here is the Hex Flash getting channeled by the side of Fizzy. He goes on in here on Adaption, gets the knockup.
Wow.
Here comes Really Big Meme trying to make something happen. The teleport is coming through for the side of Bradley. Really Big Meme going to be able to pick up the kill onto Adaption. Now here comes Bradley trying to pick up anybody that he can. Not going to be able to finish off onto Fizzy is the side of Wildcard. It does look like this is going to be a 1-for-0 in favor of AOE. Bradley just cannot find his way on in.
Huge props to all the solo laners right now. They're not afraid to burn TP to get down there to get to the fights first. Bradley here.
Oh my goodness, Bradley going to have to get himself out of the way if he doesn't want to get lasered on down by the side of Darkwings. Is going to be able to create that distance, and now his team, they feel comfortable starting on up the Dragon here. They know that Fizzy is recalled, is out of the picture for the time being. And it makes them feel comfortable to start on up this Dragon and to claim it for themselves. Well, Really Big Meme on a little bit lower of a health bar. He goes on in for Bradley, does not land the Sonic Wave. Darkwing's trying to get the damage on across, but isn't able to do so. That's a 2-man Shockwave coming from the side of Bradley. The Stormbreaker going to come on in, execute down on a Really Big Meme, and a nice big chomp to finish off Really Big Meme as well. 2 kills go to Wildcard Red, 2 kills go to Winston on the Volibear.
And for AOE, the Dragon going down was your signal to just walk away there. I know RBM was looking, trying to find that cheeky kill, but you end up dragging Darkwings down with you. I mean, the jungle mid synergy is real, but this is not how you want to show it. You don't want to show yourselves dying together. You want to be getting kills together.
Yeah, that's not the type of synergy that we like to see coming out of the side of AOE there. And now Winston is well and truly on his way to dominating this jungle matchup. Has a huge CS lead already from the time RBM has spent trying to get these ganks set on up. And now 2 kills just go right into that Volibear's pocket. He gets all the rewards Really Big Meme was looking for none of the cost.
Now, normally, Gordo, when you've got a losing lane as a jungler, you try not to gank it, because odds are you're both going to die, you're going to give up more advantages. What happens when all your lanes are losing lanes for RBM here? You've still got to make some sort of play happen. And I think you just go back to that bot lane. That is the lane that, you know, you've identified as your win con potentially here. It's also the one lane where you're not at a level deficit here and not significantly hugely down.
Oh, a huge flash from Arrow there, keeps himself from getting knocked on into the lane by Fizzy, and he just chains him up and knocks him down off the back of it. Another kill, this time in the 2v2 for the side of Wildcard Red. You caster cursed it there, RMC. You want to see the side of AOE play it through the bottom lane, but just like that, they get killed 2v2.
Yeah, that's a little rough, I think, Fizzy. Not respecting the dredge line that can pull you back in turret range as well here, because that really made all the difference. Instead, they're looking to look for the mid lane. Bradley, though, will spot them out on that ward by the Raptor pit. RBM thinking, you know, okay, I'll go for the long flank here, but actually, that is what gives the gig up.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's now Brandini going aggressively here onto Faisal. Going to throw down the Heartbreaker. Faisal doing his best to minimize damage, to get stacks on up of that Conqueror using those threaded needles. Now here comes Really Big Meme looking for the kick. Going to get flashed away preemptively by Brandini. RBM doesn't even have to commit the Dragon's Rage there. A nice usage, but not really going to net you too much of a tangible advantage. Just going to be the flash down for Brandini, but now they get to start on up onto the Rift Herald.
Yeah, that will, however, signal to the side of Wildcard Gaming that, hey, bot lane is open and free right now. Fizzy is up here. Sketch Dream showed mid as well, and they're going to be able to get a whole bunch of plates. Houdini still very, very scared. The fact that the Herald death sound has not sounded could mean that there's an ambush waiting for this top side.
Yeah, RBM going to be able to pick up that Rift Herald, going to look to throw it into the top lane. This is going to be bad news for the side of Brandini. He's got to be really concerned about the dive coming on through. Doesn't have flash. RBM did save the Dragon's Rage. He could just throw on down this Herald, but doesn't even want to. He knows that they're going to be able to pick up this kill onto Brandini. Laser comes on across. There's the Gravity Well, and there's the easy pickup for Faisal. Third kill of the game for him on this Gwen. Now they can take down 2 more plates, throw down the Rift Herald, and pick on up first turn in the top lane.
Yeah, this is actually pretty critical because don't forget, Arrow's still unattended in that bot lane. Yes, Daption roamed up, but the damage is coming down. Bradley?
Yeah, no supervisors there for the side of Arrow. Bradley going low in the 1v1 up against Sketchstreams, even at the level disadvantage, but Fizzy going to be the one who pays the price. Winston going to execute him on down. Faisal coming in with the TP. He's on the backside, looking to get onto Bradley, looking to get onto Daption. Daption going to flash over the wall, going to find himself face-to-face with some scissors there from Faisal. Faisal now in 1 versus 4, tries to flash on away, is getting stunned on up, trying to escape. The Stormbringer comes on through and is going to be biting down onto Faisal, shutting down that Gwen here. Is now Brandini going to keep chasing on forward with the stolen away. Soul now going in onto Sketchstreams with the Heartbreaker, not quite going to finish him off. This might be the end of the fight. AOE limp away, just barely holding out of their lives, and the whole time, unsupervised Arrow in the bottom lane, claiming himself a whole turret.
All the plates as well, and I gotta love the fact that the Raptors were probably what saved AOE from a complete wipe there, because Brandini got stuck in the middle of the pack, couldn't quite go on chasing, and it just feels like the snowball is growing right now. Gordo, Wildcard, they're just playing better. Great flash away from Daption, and the punish as well onto Fizzy. Fizzy only just hit level 6 as that first turret is going down in favor of Wildcard here. And if that Unbreakable Will was up earlier, a lot of those plays probably would have worked out a lot better.
Yeah, very possibly here. Arrow finally gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar there as he finishes on off of that turret, but sees the ward, is well prepared for this situation, and just backs on away before RBM can really get onto him. They are going to be able to claim this dragon here, knowing that Arrow is on a recall timer, but oh boy, look what he's been able to pick up. He gets a whole Dusk Blade here off that recall.
Oh boy, that bot lane right now is not one that Sketch Dreams and Fizzy wants to be in. They are very, very far up in this lane as well. They do not have an outer turret behind them. Remember that. They do have the vision though, and they're gonna feel comfortable. Brandini actually being rotated down here, that's going to be trouble instead, I think, for Darkwings, because now you've got that Duskblade. You've got a really strong siege situation.
Dive in the bottom lane, though, going right in onto Brandini, trying to shut him down. The rocket jump comes on through. Fizzy, unfortunately, picks up the kill, but they are still going to relieve all the pressure in that bottom lane now and give Sketchstream some alone time with those turret plates. He's already picked up 2 for himself. Can likely use the explosive shot for more, but meanwhile, Winston and Daption looking to trade on the top side. The shockwave comes on through to lock down Faisal. He's got nowhere to go. He's going to be melted on down there. Another kill goes in the pocket of Bradley, and now RBM left in a 1 versus 3 under his turret. He's going to have to go for some crazy plays here. Goes for the Dragon's Rage, isn't able to get it onto Bradley, isn't able to knock him far enough away, isn't able to execute him on down, and now gets bitten down by Winston on his own side. 2 more kills go to the side of Wildcard Red, and RBM just cannot pick up the answer.
I respect the attempt, but that was a flash blown to try and make that play happen. And once again here, Gordo, the AD carries left unattempted. Sketchstream's able to return the favor to Arrow. If we just ignore the kill gold right now, the game is incredibly close. But unfortunately, the kill gold exists. And so does that 5K or 4,500 gold gap in favor of Wildcard Gaming.
Absolutely. Here, AOE very much on the back foot in this game here, although Sketchstreams did just get handed a whole bunch of turret plates in the bottom lane to hopefully give him up a little bit closer to parity with Arrow, but the CS difference is still there. The kill difference is still there as well, and the team difference there as well is Bradley and Winston in particular. They are just skyrocketed ahead of their opposition in this game off the back of a bunch of kills.
Yeah, in game 1, Taco brought up the fact that quietly behind Bradley just popping everyone on LeBlanc was Winston on the Volbear doing a really solid job in the early game. 5-1 and 3. It's not so quiet, but it's just as good a job right now for Winston here. And it feels like they've completely collapsed AOE's vision. AOE doesn't know where Winston is, and that's making them very hesitant to try and punish any of the plays coming out from Wildcard. Bradley right now is gankable, is punishable, but they don't have the vision to know that right now, and so they're just gonna give this top lane outer turret for free.
Yeah, definitely going to end up going on over to the side of Wildcard. They claim themselves another turret here. Fizzy looking for a pick onto Brandini, not going to find it. He does just slink over into this bottom lane. They might be looking for a dive, but Arrow and Daption are here for the answer. Fizzy goes on in, but maybe bites off more than he can chew. He pops the Unbreakable right away, but it just does not keep him very alive for very long. He falls on down there. Another free kill handed over to the side of Wildcard, and now they're looking to chase down onto more. Darkwings throws down Gravity. Will try to keep himself safe, but Winston is here to cut off. Really big meat goes on in, falls it up with by the hook from Daption, trying to escape, gets some regen there off the Gore Drinker, but just too much damage from the Frenzied Strike on Winston. He picks himself up, another one, making it a 2-for-0 for Wildcard in the extended play.
But Sketchstream survives, right, Gordo? So that's a win? That's your win con? No, not really. Not at all. You are falling deep into a hole right now for AOE. And I don't care how good Sketchstreams is on Tristana. He's not going to be able to 1v5 this team. You cannot keep digging this massive hole for Tristana to try and dig you out of here. And now, the last outer turret for AOE is about to fall. You can't contest it. And the ocean map, if anything, is making it even harder. There's bushes on either side. You've only got one side really properly warded. You've got to be careful for Hex Flash from Daption over the wall. It's just, you end up ceding so much of your territory, so much of your control.
Yeah, definitely do here. Sketchstream's just trying to get all this mid lane farm funneled into him. He's going to have some kind of crazy pop-off fight to be able to get his squad back into this game. They've been set behind by in so many metrics, in so many ways. Is now, once again, Fizzy going aggressively here on Arrow. He's just going to flash himself away to safety and now is returning the damage in droves. Going to melt right through that Alistair and throws away the fade away Chains of Corruption to pick off Sketchstreams. Nicely played there from Arrow in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, Darkwing's getting chased away by Brandini. Going to end up going down. Now, Bradley and RBM, they are in a 1v1. RBM finds himself on the wrong side of the ball there and gets taken on down. Bradley goes unstoppable as 4 kills are picked up unanswered for the side of Wildcard Red. Once again, they are just dominating this game.
You gotta love RBM. Stepping right into the perfect pocket there, but you know your shot that the ball is there. That one last emote before he bids the rift at you. And Dragon about to come up, then guess who's standing sentinel? Winston, because literally no one is able to contest you. That fight started off with Fizzy looking for a pick, and I applaud the fact that you're still trying to be proactive, but when Sketch Dreams Rocket jumped in and didn't find the kill, you knew everything went horrifically sideways at that point.
Yeah, and it just keeps happening here. I appreciate Fizzy continuously going on in, trying to find the picks, trying to set up Sketchstreams to start getting funneled some kills and get himself back into the game. But these last 2 or 3 have just not ended up going their way, and they just end up giving more gold over to Wildcard and creating an even more insurmountable lead for the side of AOE.
Yep. Baron's not even up yet, and we're already seeing a 9,000 gold gap, soon to be 10,000 here, Gordo. Across the board, if we toggle gold, the only lane that's even close is Faisal versus Brandini. Every other lane is down 2 or more thousand gold pretty much here. And it's just looking worse and worse. AOE, I don't think you even try and set up fights anymore, favorable fights. Either you go for a bushwhack where you've got maybe 2 more people than Wildcard Red here, or you kind of wait for Wildcard to try and start up Baron, wait till they kind of get low, and then look for something to happen off that.
Yeah, Winston now chasing down onto RBM. He's got a few places left to go, going to ward and dash away, but there goes the shockwave from Bradley, just gonna one-shot the Lee Sin where he stands. Now Fizzy trying to get his escape out there, but he's gonna get chased on down by this bear as well. Bradley there to provide the additional movement speed to pick up the double kill for his team. And now once again, RBM and Fizzy are off the map. They are not there to set up plays for the rest of the team, and that means that Darkwing, Sketchstreams, and Faisal, they're just gonna have to retreat and hide back in their base, or they're going to risk get taken on down. Here comes Winston going on in for the dive, going to turn off that turret and just going to one-shot Darkwings as he goes legendary. Now can just waltz back on out, take the inner turret, which by the way is still standing as he dives the inhibitor turret, and they're just going to walk on out of here with 3 more kills to their name.
I don't know what you're going to do right now, Gordo, when that was Daption and Winston only killing Darkwings there. That is just the straight advantage they have. They are so far ahead right now that Sketch Dreams, Darkwings, Faisal, none of you are safe under a turret anymore. If that Stormbringer is up, you got to walk away if you don't have Fizzy there to basically try and CC. And even if Fizzy's there, he can probably still dive you. We talked about 9K gold lead. We are now at 11K gold lead, just as Baron spawns.
Yeah, Baron's just spawning, by the way. I know it feels like this game's been going on for 40 minutes because we've got 25 kills already, but really is only about at the 20-minute mark here, and that should be an objective well and truly in Wildcard Red's eyes, as they have just such an insurmountable lead at this point that picking it should be pretty trivial for them as long as they get their setup done appropriately.
It really doesn't feel like RBM and Darkwings is supposed to be the one with existing synergy, because Winston and Bradley have been on point. He's not dying. That's 4 people.
Winston getting chased on down. He just pops the Sterix there. Still is alive. Bradley now getting chased on by Faisal. Bradley flashes back into the middle of 3 people. He's likely going to go on down here, but meanwhile, Arrow just shooting on down Fizzy. It's a 1-for-1 thus far.
Okay.
This might be the closest thing to an opportunity that Wildcard can find. RBM goes on in, tries to kick Arrow into the team, but is not going to be able to do so. Arrow gets himself on the right side, just escapes farther away, takes on down RBM, and is going to survive to tell the tale. It's a 1-for-2 in favor of Wildcard Red, and the whole while, Brandini, he's split pushing on the bottom side.
I feel like that's the anthem of this game too here, Gordo. Meanwhile, someone's split pushing. Every fight it feels like that's kind of happening right now. And hey, why not? I said that we needed a 2-man advantage here. So Brandini doesn't even need to move right now. AOE, they're trying. They really are trying. They did not give up hope in that fight there. And they got a massive shutdown onto Bradley there. I believe Faisal was the one to pick it up. So, you know what? Faisal 4-3-0 was the only person kind of even in gold against their lane partner. Faisal has to step up right now. I know Gwen isn't a huge team fight champion, but you're almost forced to be that for the team.
I'm gonna say I called it, RMC. They're playing through Faisal. They got no choice but to play through Faisal at this point here at 21 minutes into game number 2 and a 22-6 kill score, down over 11K gold. It's time to play through Faisal, baby. There's no other options left for you. As now RBM and Fizzy looking for another pick onto Bradley here. He did expend the flash in the last fight, but who's collapsing on who? As there's going to be 4 members coming on through here. Daption has found them. He jumps onto Fizzy. RBM trying to escape here, going to try to use Arrow in order to do so. Gets some nice distance, but just can't one-shot the Varus. He's too powerful as Arrow shuts him on down. Now Bradley getting chased on away is going to get taken on down. First kill of the fight for Sketch Dreams, looking to try to get some resets, but Winston is already coming back on up from his stasis. Brandini now chasing them down in the form of this Alistair, looking to get the CC across. The hook comes through onto the side of Sketch Dreams, and he is not going to survive for much longer. Winston goes legendary once again as he picks himself up another kill. Now Arrow shoots his name at Faisal. It does get dodged on away from the time being, but not going to survive for very long. He goes into the 1v4, and he reacts about as you'd expect, as he just vanishes before the fight of WCR. Another pickup here for Wildcard, and they're gonna pick up the Baron here. There's nothing left.
No, there really isn't. Take that. Hey, Dragon spawn. Dragon's up as well. Why not take that? And Wildcard Red, they're really snowballing right now. You know what? Up to this point, it was mostly Winston and Bradley. But after that last fight, Arrow's into the game as well. 5-0-9. And, you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Wildcard channel here, Gordo, but have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Arrow, the ADC? I thought not. It's not a story that the LCS or the LCK would tell you. It's an amateur legend. And basically, it involves Arrow killing every ADC he runs up against.
Oh, and it's coming to fruition here, well and truly, RMC, as the fall of AOE is very much upon us. The Jedi, if that's what you're going to call RBM, they've died 7 times here. RBM and Fizzy, the ones trying to get the setups here, they're doing their best to keep everything in order, but it's not lasting very long at all. They are just going down time and time again, and now the whole order, it's all just collapsed.
It's Order 66 all over again. The Jedi are being slaughtered. AoE at this point, frankly, at this point, you're kind of looking at it and you're thinking, this game for AoE, you're not realistically coming back unless Wildcard kind of throw this in it.
RBM
starting to true. Hey,
he's looking for it.
Yeah, he's still going for it. But yeah, you kind of need to think about what went so horrifically wrong in this game. The early game was really close, and it just felt like Winston once again faster than RBM, getting to places a little bit cleaner, a little bit better here, and AoE just need to be a little bit more proactive. You're getting out jungled by a Volibear right now.
Yeah, here comes the Hex Flash from Fizzy. This is their last stand as they go on in with the Shurelias, but already the depth charge forcing Sketchstreams to dash on backwards. Winston now left a little bit alone. He's Stormbringer's away. Fizzy just leading everybody as far away from his base as they can, but he's finally going to get shot on down by Darth Arrow there. So now they're going to move back on in. Now in a 5 versus 4, they should be able to claim this inhibitor. They're taking mid lane at the exact same time. And Darkwings, he just got hit by a skill shot somewhere along the line and is now at very low HP.
I so badly want to say that Duskblade is not the right mythic for Varus, but Arrow's just making it look broken right now. That was just an arrow, which almost killed Darkwings. 2 arrows would have killed Darkwings. The siege continues. Baron's there. AOE. Okay, finally, Fizzy's up. This is the last fight. Let's roll.
Look, 1 arrow is more than enough to carry this wildcard team. I don't want to even think about what 2 of them would be like here, RMC. So now Faisal, he's just getting chunked on out before he can skip and slash forward. Going to immediately dash on back to try to get back into the fountain, try to suck up a little bit more of that HP. But it looks like he's just losing his entire base while they go for it. Final fight now for the side of AOE. It is going to be Fizzy leading the charge here, but he does not have the tankiness, and he just gets 1 shot there from Bradley's Shockwave. Now RBM flashing on forward, trying to pick himself up. At least 1 kill, goes into the stasis, but it's just going to be melted down as soon as he comes on out. Sketchstream's getting forced back into the base. Darkwings is as well. The game number 2 going to go over to the side of Wildcard Red as they bring us to match point.
Well, Gordo, the analyst desk, even AOE's developmental coach, Elijah, was saying that tonight's looking a bit wildcard favored here. And he was kind of saying off air a little bit that, hey, depending on how the first game or 2 goes, if wildcard get rolling, there's a pretty good chance they steamroll AOE. And they won game 1, and it looked a little bit tough. Game 2 did not. Wildcard's engine, it's up, it's revving, it's going. And AOE need to do something. Big changes here in game 3 to stop this from happening. They lost every single lane this game early, and it really showed because they didn't have anybody to play through.
Yeah, and they got the Tristana for Sketch Dreams. They really felt like maybe this was going to be the angle where they could go in and win in that bottom lane. But Arrow on his signature Varus, certainly going to be able to stand tall there and come on out ahead. We're going to throw it over now to the analyst desk to break down everything that we just saw.
Welcome back to the analyst desk. Once again, DJ here, joined by Elijah and Taco. And we had a lot to say after game number 1, gentlemen. There is some things to talk about, but I think a little bit less after this was, I think in all of our opinions, really kind of decided at level 3.
Yeah, I will say this. I hate it when I'm right. Like I said beforehand, they lose game 1, they're probably just going to fall apart. I didn't think it'd be like this. But yeah, I guess the game 2's plan is just to flip the whole game at level 3. See who comes out on top.
Yeah, I don't really understand what AOE was thinking, because we mentioned in the last analyst desk, we said, all right, these jungle ganks, you kind of need to like track them, make sure you're gonna be prepared for whatever action's gonna come. AOE, they go too hard in lane, they go too far, and then they just get collapsed on instantly. I do want to mention though, Bradley, amazing way he picked up all that advantage and all that gold from that fight and just completely pushed Darkwings out of the game.
Yeah, Bradley once again here, 2 games in a row now on very different looks, looking very, very good. Yes, he picked up 2 kills in that sort of coin toss at level 3, but as Taco mentioning here, really kind of extended that lead across the map, was instrumental, baiting players in, getting good shockwaves out, and kind of set up Wildcard for a lot of the things they wanted to do, Elijah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously you can look at the scoreline and you can look at the lane and say that Bradley played it pretty well, but you can't really give him too much credit for playing the lane well. He was playing Lost Chapter to tier in lane. I think I could win that lane at that point. But yeah, like overall, I think he got good team fights. I think he played the mid to late pretty well.
So now, as we again, we take kind of a very big lead in game number 2, right? Maybe not too much to take away from the late game here. So I do want to focus our eyes going forward, of course, into this critical game 3. Elijah predicted it that this could be a 3-0 if game 1 doesn't go to AOE. Well, We are sitting on the cusp of that here. We even had Taco predicting the 3-0. Gentlemen, your predictions are close to coming true here, but again, what do we need to see in game number 3 from AOE to try to stop that from happening? In particular, for me, I thought the draft for them in game number 2 just kind of didn't set themselves up well. But what do you need to see change in that draft and in the execution of it in game number 3?
I mean, with a draft, just draft smarter. When they picked Varus Nautilus, I understand that Brady's Tristana is unparalleled. He has one of the best Tristanas in the scene. But why are you picking it in such a terrible situation? That doesn't make sense to me. I think he needs to calm it down a little. He's a good player. Just put him on something a little more safer. Maybe stall out the game a bit longer. If you're not able to fix these mistakes early game where you're going to get caught out by the team and you just wanted to play safe, it's perfectly fine playing scaling. Game 1, we kind of alluded to that. They should be perfectly fine not fighting for that last dragon. Eventually, they ended up doing that and then causing the game to just end right there. But I think game 3, just focus on scaling. They still have a chance, and it probably can work out for them still. I think game 3 they still have a chance to bring it back a little bit.
Yeah,
Anything
I guess.
specific? Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
Elijah.
I guess the main thing is like how many times do you have to give Arrow an unlosable lane with Varus before it either gets banned or you pick something else into it, right? With the 80 carries that are being left up, what's ended up happening is that just becomes the best one left. And if you're not willing to take it, you're showing you're not willing to take it by not drafting on R1, R2, right? You're not willing to play anything into it that can realistically beat it. Your answer was Tristana into Varus Nautilus, right? Then the third answer, it's game 3. Either get rid of it or I guess um, do your best into it in game 3.
Yeah, that does bring up an interesting point here, as I am still waiting to hear what sides they do end up on. But do you think that Tristana could work into a better matchup in the bottom lane, or is it just still a little too difficult? I mean, I know the Nautilus probably threw a little bit of a wrench in the works for that champion, but is there a world in which Tristana could work here for Sketch Dreams for AoE?
I mean, I think Tristana still is an angle that they can take a look at doing. Like I said, it's one of Brady's best champions. It's still fine if they do it. They just need to understand what they're going to be drafting it into. Arrow also hasn't even busted out his Aphelios yet. He's just played Varus 2 games. Like, he's played one champion, dominated his lane, his opponents both times on it, and if you do take him off of it, you have to be prepared for what he's going to bring out afterwards. The Aphelios, the Callista, all the meta champs, Ezreal, he has so many responses. I just don't know if Brady has anything into those if his answer this game was picking Tristana.
Yeah, it's. I guess I can only really reiterate. Either bring something else or it's going to be a rough game 3.
Okay, so we got to see a lot different here from AoE and probably more of the same from Wildcard Red. We are hearing that AoE is going to stay here on, or is going to go back to the blue side. Excuse me. So, does that kind of inform your opinions at all as we head into this third draft?
Well, I don't know if they necessarily want to take the Gwen again. I know game 1 they took Gwen on 1. I think if they're going to take blue side, either taking the Varus themselves would be good, or banning it out and maybe going with a different B1. If they ban out Viego, I think Gwen's not that bad, but it's really anyone's guess what they're going to take out here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still acceptable if they take Gwen. They just need to understand that the champ really isn't in a blindable state anymore. Making sure they understand their 80 carry prios. If Varus is up, you have to take it. If Wildcard does not ban it, you have to take it if you want. Like, I am begging you, AoE, please take Varus if it is up. It is not even a question how broken this champion is. I see so many 80 carries in the scene pop off on it, but if they don't want to play against it, they have to ban it, which is kind of like sort of a blue side throwaway ban. If you can't play the champion, you just have to ban it. I still think there's a lot of prios in the meta that are still going to be up. Karma Lulu, Xin Zhao, Lee Sin, Nocturne, all these things AoE can start building their comp with. We just have to see if they choose the right one for it.
All right, so we've had both of our analysts beg for some different things. One of them definitely revolves around the virus ban. The other one revolves around potentially Ziggs. We'll see if either of those do end up here. As again, we are going to need to see what AoE can come up with here in game number 3, or we might just see Darth Arrow and the rest of Wildcard Red collect a lot more hands as they run away with a 3-0 sweep here in the quarterfinals. But briefly, we will be throwing it to a break here before we send it to our caster crew of Gordo and our MC. And I have been informed by powers that be here at Risen, Mr. Goferino would like to have a personal thank you from me here for that tier 1 subscription. So I suppose I'm obligated to do so, lest he have my head. So with that, we will throw it to a break here. Stick around for our casters in game number 3 between Wildcard Red and AoE.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Champions League quarterfinals matchup between AOE and Wildcard Red. Wildcard are now just one game away from punching their ticket to the semifinals and taking down AOE in a clean sweep here.
Yeah, best of 5, game 3. Your backs are up against the wall, and AOE. I mean, the analysts said it best. They just need to play smarter, drop smarter, and play cleaner. All right. We've harped so much on the Varus pick for the most part, but I want to focus on, what Taco and Elijah were saying about how the game was decided at level 3. That's 2 games in a row now. We've seen early mass fights in the bot lane with everybody who can dog Pollen get right on in there. And that's not what we're used to seeing at this level. You've done it twice now. If you do it in game 3, what's the difference between this and just flipping coins?
Yeah, not seeing the difference too much myself here. Really do want to see that Varus Prio bumped up for the side of AoE, or at least ban it. If that's what you have to do, then just ban it away.
Yeah.
And play against the Arrow of Felios like everybody else does. Because clearly just giving him the Varus is not the way to go here. He's just been dominating every single bot lane. They have not been able to get the game rolling through there. And they don't seem to have another way to play. They aren't really going to play through Faisal as much as we might meme about it. They're still coming down to the bot lane. They're still trying to set sketch streams up. They're still having Fizzy Hex Flash in there and start off a million fights. It's just not working.
Yeah, and the thing is, Faisal isn't even playing bad. We've seen the Gwen be sort of the one lane that isn't losing for them. But again, the Gwen isn't carrying the game either. And if that's the case, I think you just kind of let Gwen through or just ban it yourself here, because Wildcard, they don't care. They've shown time and time, even before when Gwen was blindable, before people figured out really how to deal with it, they were already letting it through. If anything, they're just more polished now. We saw the Viego Gwen matchup. Apparently, Viego wins that, especially if it is Brandini here. I know Brandini on Twitter in the break was saying one more snoozer to get through. AoE, take that as motivation, man. Like, get into that top lane. If Faisal's the one who's doing well, play through Faisal.
Yeah, and otherwise, want to look for some different matchups for Dark Wings as well here, because he had the counter pick in mid that last game. He knew he was facing down the Orianna. He chose the Victor into that matchup, and really did not come out that far ahead. I know the Orianna's a safe laner. It's really tough to dominate that champion with any pick, but the Victor really did not feel very impactful in that last game, and that was their R5 commitment. That was the one pick that you get where everything you're up against. And it just kind of fizzled and didn't feel like too much.
Yeah, definitely here. And they are on blue side once again. Like you said, I agree with that. There's no point. If you're not going to pick like a hard punish counter pick or something they can hard carry, then blue side's better. You do get the first pick here. You get the option of Varus. And I just really don't understand this. Sketch Streams is a good Varus player. Unleash him on it. Granted, sure, Arrow might have a counter pick or something, right? Like we said, like we've heard, Arrow's got so many champions. But we actually need to start seeing it, right? Like right now, we can't even see the champion pool because you're letting him get away with the same thing over and over again. DJ and Rebel, I believe, are the originators of the Star Wars references here from Wildcard, Darth Arrow. But really, we are in a Star Wars situation. Is this going to be the prequels where things get progressively worse, or is this going to be the sequels where it started off kind of okay, got really bad, and then there was hope at the end here? AOE, you got to make this the sequels at this point.
Yeah, there's definitely going to need to be a new hope for this side of AOE here. They need something to come on through at this point. And, if they're able to do that, if they're able to come back, there's a whole nother trilogy to get to. There's going to be a couple more games if they are able to clap back in this game number 3 and bring themselves up to that 1-2 scoreline. But they're going to have to win this one first. They're going to have to take that first step. And the first step of the first step, the lifting your leg up to take the first step, it's got to be doing something about this Varus.
Yeah. You know what? And that comes down more to the coaches, right? We focus so heavily on the players on the team, but ADFX, for the side of Wildcard, he's done a great job. He doesn't need to change anything at all. Pukar and Julius, the coaches here for AOE, something needs to change. And personally, when I see that you've had a similar draft 2 games and it doesn't work, I like to see something completely wild, completely new. Forget about, trying to play front to back. Maybe just go full dive composition, right? That's an option as well. Or go full poke. You just need to break mental at this point as well. It's not only about just trying to catch your opponents off guard. It's about trying to break your own team out of this lethargy, the habits that you've kind of built in here.
Yeah, definitely here. We're taking a couple more seconds here before we are going to get into that draft. And that's all time that those coaches have to chat with these players about what they want to play, about what's going to make them comfortable and what's going to set them up most for success in this last game. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones who have to execute here as we are going to drop into what might be our final draft of the day here with AOE on the blue and Wildcard Red on their namesake, the red side.
Okay, praise the force here. Gwen being taken out, that is definitely a signal that they're changing something up. We've seen Akali Nocturne banned away both games. It was Lucian in game 1. It was Shinsao in game 2 here. But the Gwen being taken off tells me Area of Effect Esports are not going to first pick that, and that just increases the chances that they pick Varus instead.
You gotta believe it at this point, RMC. They can't just keep giving it away. Although Wildcard, they're throwing them a bone here. They're gonna ban the Varus on their own side here. They're like, all right, there's no way they give this to us 3 times in a row. Let's just ban it now for us on the red.
Okay, and that leaves, Viego, Karma, Lulu, all these enchanters open here. And AoE, you can just potentially just ban one of those support style picks and guarantee yourself the other. But of course, they're taking out Akali for now here. And Wildcard, they've been banning sort of the support style champions. Last game, it was Lulu, Thresh, Karma. Are they going to take one of them out here?
And looks like the Viego is being hovered here as the potential ban. That's going to be locked on in. So no more new Shadow Isles champions this time. Gwen and Viego both taken off the board. So what do we see as the first pick from AOE? With Varus already banned, could it be that Tristana again? Or is Sketchdreams a little bit worried about his win rate getting ruined here?
16-2 now. Things are no longer at a 90% win rate, unfortunately. Renekton hovered for first pick. And this is a pick that Faisal has traditionally done pretty well on here. Sometimes you don't necessarily win it, but even on weak side or strong side, his Renekton is very, very stable. Personally, I was thinking, something more like a Thresh denial away from the side of Daption here, because hey, Aphelios is Arrow's most played champion, and if the Varus is banned, Thresh Aphelios is probably the next tier, the fallback that they're likely to default to.
Yeah, definitely going to be something that gets hovered on here. That Thresh at least going to be locked on in. We'll see what Arrow rather wants to take with it. Vero at this point, given the amount of Varus he's played, but not going to be coming through on this game. But with that Renekton locked in, that gets me excited for what the new look from AOE might be. Does give me pause to consider. Could be RBM's Nidalee coming on through maybe in a little bit here to pair on up with that Renekton and to enable some really successful ganks here. Dark Wings could also take the Renekton into the mid lane. It is still a flexible pick here. It would be good up against something like that Orianna that we saw last game. Arrow, though, he is going to lock in the Aphelios.
For AoE, I almost want to see you go just Lulu Cog right here. That is a combo that can deal with Aphelios. And Lulu Karma are still open here. Instead, Ashe being locked in, and we've seen the Ashe Leona combo coming out. They go for Ashe Braum. Defense here to try and match this, and I don't know if I like this here, Gordo. Ashe takes time to really scale to be effective. They're picking the Braum as well. That's not a traditional roaming support to get things off to a huge start. And considering what we've seen in the last couple of games here, even if AoE draft to scale, they don't play to scale.
Certainly now, as that's going to be the Gnar being hovered by the side of Wildcard. Brandini should be pretty comfortable taking that matchup up against the Renekton in the top lane, if that is what it comes to. It's going to be locked on in here, and now Wildcard, they get to take some bans as well, though it is a mirrored draft from either side here, both locking in their bot lanes and a top laner, though the Renekton has to still be considered as potential flex pick.
Yeah, and potentially you're going to see jungle pools being pinched for both these sides right now. Generally, when you see that Renekton locked in, regardless of which lane it's going to, it does suggest that we're going to see some sort of magic-based jungler here. So taking out the Rumble, potentially even a Diana ban to come out as well, because those are the combos that can really rip a lane to pieces.
Definitely are. There's the LeBlanc ban you referred to there. They are going to be avoiding the pick for Bradley. And apparently, I'm getting word that Rumble equals Diana. That's actually a Diana ban coming through from the side of Wildcard. Still looking to pinch away AP junglers, but maybe not this one in particular.
Okay, we'll have to see now. If Rumble is Diana, then I expect to see Rumble banned or Diana banned. I mean, Okay, so the whole thing with Rumble right now is, yes, he's got a so slow clear, but you can still, your gank is still fairly efficient, right? And Renekton, again, is such good setup as well here. Rumble is about as strong as Nautilus Rumble as well. So you've got a pretty good setup for Rumble if you want to pick it for AoE.
Definitely do, and it could be also a nice pick if you do end up flexing that Renekton, because you do want to keep your jungle and mid laner as separate damage profiles. You want that AP jungler if you do go with the AD mid laner, rather. So now the Volibear are going to be banned away from AoE. That means Winston has to pick a new champion here, as that is the Diana being hovered.
What?
I assume Diana equals Rumble, since Rumble equals Diana. Is that the Rumble locked on in for the side of Wildcard? It sounds like it is.
Oh my goodness. 3 straight games of messed up pro draft for Wildcard. This is giving me a headache here. You know what? They had to, pretty much, right? Like, we were talking about the fact that Rumble with the Braum here. If you're gonna leave it open, you pick it yourself. And guess what? It works really well with the Philios and Nara as well. With that Gravitum, if you get multi-man Gravitum, well, that's a great setup as well. Kindred gonna be the answer here. And right now, to me, if you pick Kindred, you're gonna need some strong lanes to back it up. They've got to pick something blind, and well, Azir, that'll do it.
All right, it is going to be Azir for Darkwings, a little bit of a throwback to the spring split there on the Emperor of the Sands, and going to be the Kindred here for RBM, a much more powerful carry pick than he's had access to previously. Really going to want to be having his laners assisting him in getting these marks early on, but if he is able to get them, could be the power pick that AOE is looking for.
Yep, and right now, trying to figure out what the counter. Oh, okay, so Rumble mid, and you know what? I'm not. I want a confirmation from production first that Kha'Zix is Kha'Zix. Of course, no, it's not. Kha'Zix is not Kha'Zix. This is why I waited here, Gordo, because I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense to me. It is actually a Lucian. So Diana is Rumble. Kha'Zix is Lucian. I'd love it if we can get that switched up somehow on the graphic so that I don't troll myself and confuse myself, but it's unlikely that's going to happen. And Lucian into Azir. That is a nice strong lane for Lucian early, but it certainly does get a little rough later. Azir has the range advantage, has the poke advantage onto Lucian as well. So Wildcard Gaming, you know, that's a confidence pick right there.
Oh, Lucian Rumble as a mid-jungle duo. How the mighty have fallen from an R1, R2 mid-jungle duo to an R4, R5 jungle duo coming through for Wildcard Red here in their match point. If they are able to pull it on out here with these picks, they will be moving on to that semifinals, and they can kiss AOE goodbye.
Yeah, and now with Wildcard, with the drop that they've got themselves here, my eye is drawn to this Gnar for Brandini here, because I really think that is the piece that ties everything together. Yes, the Aphelios is a very strong pick for Arrow. We've seen it tons of time, but you need the setup for it. You need the front line, and that is going to be your Mega Gnar to try and zone out targets going in to provide that initiate for your team as well. So if there was ever a time for Brandini to shine, this is it. And for AoE, I'm still not completely sold on this Ash Bomb, but it does give them long range engage whenever they want it, wherever they want it. It is a global ultimate that can go anywhere, so you can help your lanes out. And that's what I'm looking for them to do. Find the picks with that arrow. I'm not confident in the ability to 5v5 against the Aphelios, against the Rumble here. So instead, if you can find a pick early, find 1 or 2 kills right off the bat, and initiate a 5v4 or 5v3, I don't care if your ultimates are already burned. You should still be able to win that fight through sheer numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be able to here. And that Ash feels like it is the wild card you were asking for here. No pun intended, RMC, as the engage opportunities offered by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, the ability to exert global pressure with it, that's going to be a big turning point here for AoE. If they are able to make great use over this Ash and catch wildcard off guard, then it should really be a great opportunity here for them to be able to fight back in this series.
Now, Gordo, last 2 games we had RNG's roll at level 3, level 4, right? When we saw those big skirmishes in the bot lane. This game, we've got another different metric of RNG here, Kindred marks. And that's going to be very, very important to track for AOE Esports, because you've picked this Kindred here, and if you can't get the marks fairly early on, given the speed and the way the games have been going, there might not be a chance for Kindred to skill into the late game and wait to pick up those marks here. So I want to see the lanes play smart. And for the sake of AoE, I want those marks to be spawning on the bot side, because if they're spawning top, Nar has prio over Renekton, Lucian has prio over Azir early, and you won't be able to secure any of those early marks if they're all top side.
Yeah, definitely going to be a major concern here, and really want to keep an eye on Brandini in this Gnar versus Renekton matchup. This is something that all of these top laners across the world have been very well versed in this matchup over the course of this season and seasons prior, and yet it still has a little bit of complexities that people tend to miss out on here. We saw even Someday getting killed on the Gnar side of this matchup in LCS this past weekend. Still some room for mistakes to be made even on the advantage side of that ranged Gnar. Want to keep an eye on if Brandini is going to be able to execute here up against Faisal, if he's going to be able to keep this Renekton down and make sure that there aren't more opportunities opened up for this Kindred across the map, because we know how scary that crocodile can be.
Yeah. So just it, but after all the things we described here, Gordo, it just feels like all the cards are still in the hand of Wildcard. Really, their motto is stack the deck for a reason, right? They've definitely stacked it in this particular draft here. And AoE, I feel like if you're trying to force early gameplays like what we've been seeing happen, it's not going to end well for you. AoE, just sit back and scale. That's really all they've had to do for all these games right now. You don't have to necessarily be super proactive, just proactive enough to see the gangs coming and to be able to avoid it, to choose not to engage in it rather than just embrace it wholeheartedly and watch where the chips fall.
Yeah, in Wildcard Red, they do have a little bit of difficulty getting the engages off there. Yes, they can go for a big jump in with a Mega Gnar, which should be fairly predictable. They can go for picks with something like a Thresh Hook or an Equalizer, but they don't have a lot of hard engage on their side here. So they're really going to be reliant on getting an early-ish advantage and being able to take control over these objectives early on in order to find success. So if AoE are able to strike first, if they're able to get themselves a nice lead in the early game here, if they're able to RNG themselves into some nice marks for their Kindred, this could be their opportunity to take a game here.
Yeah, and it kind of has to revolve around that. Once they get into the later stage of the game, they've got the Emperor's Divide, with the Lamb's Respite. They'll have a bit of an easier time, but yeah, it's all just so far down the road, Gordo. And I think we need to look at first 10 minutes first. AoE needs to take it one step at a time. Don't be looking too far down. If you have to blow flashes, if you have to blow summoners, you have to blow ultimates, do it to live.
And with that, we are going to throw it to one last break here, or perhaps the first break of many, if AoE are able to pull it on out here. But a break nonetheless, as we get loaded on up into this game number 3. Do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more of Wildcard Red up against AoE Esports. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Champions League quarterfinals matchup between AOE Esports and Wildcard Red. Wildcard Red now sitting at 2-0 in this series, one more win away from making themselves their way into the semifinals. Now it is going to be Arrow on his Aphelios, the pick he has loved so much this whole split so far. See if he is able to pull it out here up against Sketch Dreams and Fizzy.
And I think the bigger question is, Gordo, right now, are you an AOE believer here? They are down 0-2. For them to make semis, they would have to pull off the reverse sweep here. And frankly, it hasn't been looking too hot for them.
Oh, they do spot Arrow and Bradley on their way out of the jungle here. That's going to be the Winter's Bite. Landed onto Arrow. They're continuing to chase here. The volley has got to be coming on out here pretty soon from the Ash. It's going to be a long chase here. Arrow going to have to commit the cleanse. Going to be followed up with by the Arrow. There is the exhaust. Could this be the pickup for the side of AOE? No. Going to be a flash there blown by Arrow, but that's a big summoner spell advantage for the bot lane of AOE. A good start here for the first step on them making their way back in this series.
Flash and cleanse here, Gordo. Both summoners down for the side of Arrow. And against an Ash Braum, you definitely want those available. Darkwings, though, being zoned up, not being allowed back to lane here. Bradley is trading, and I think actually did successfully deny a little bit of CS here away from Darkwings.
Yeah, definitely did a little bit of damage to his health bar, but took a little bit back in turn here. Both of these guys, though, do have the corrupting pot start. They are going to be able to keep themselves fairly healthy in this early lane, but RBM, he's feeling very comfortable here in the wildcard jungle, given how that level 1 did in fact go. Bradley, though, going aggressively in this mid lane, hitting the level 2 first, looking to trade in on the Darkwings, taking a lot of stabs on the back side, though. That's going to be another Q here from the side of Darkwings, and now RBM is here. He's looking to trace on to Bradley. Bradley retreating into the opposing side's blue jungle. This is going to be a big escape attempt from Bradley here. He's looking to execute, and looks like he is going to be able to do it. I think it's been long enough since he took damage. Yeah. He certainly can't afford to wait much longer, and Bradley, with the great escape, going to be executed down and avoid giving over first blood to the side of AOE.
That, as impressive as that is, Gordo, we should remember, he still just died. Yes, it is a faster recall. You do get back to lane quicker, but did have to blow TP, and that's a great start for Darkwings here. You're happy to do that, but it does mean that now Darkwings is out of pot stacks at about half health here and can no longer back up RBM on aggressive plays.
Yeah, does have TP advantage, though, so he is just going to take a little recall here, look to maybe pick up himself an item or two, but no, he realizes he's got to catch this big old wave. Got to be a little bit concerned about Bradley, but I don't think he's quite willing to go for the dive just yet. So should be able to pretty easily farm this one out here on the Azir, pick himself up these few waves of caster minions, and meanwhile, RBM looks like he was able to pick up his first mark of the game there on that topside scuttler.
I love to see it here, and that's why we saw so much aggression from the mid lane. Has to be careful about his own jungle now. There was a potential for a 3 buff from RBM, but because of the way Bradley has taken control of the mid lane, it's a little bit dicey. Winston, for now, is just taking the scuttle, but now is going to start looking for the invade. Drop the control ward here, and now they'll spot each other on the raptor camps.
Yeah, RBM sees those chickens running in towards something, and he can assume that that something is Winston. So he's just going to pick up that red buff, move over to his Krugs, consider the chickens lost, and that's fine. He can lose the chickens. He was able to steal away blue buff to start on off this game. He should still be feeling pretty comfortable for how his jungle has started on off.
Winston left the lost chicken. It's happening off screen, but that was a nasty thing to do. RBM's going to have to remember to clear that one. It will actually mess up jungle pathing a little bit, but we did see some trading bot. We're now seeing some top, and Faisal actually not doing too badly into this Gnar so far.
No, doing just fine in the top lane. Has a little CS lead for himself. Is going to likely get evened up here as Brandini looks to pick up these next few minions. But the health bar is certainly just fine for Faisal. Now has himself a little level lead. We'll see if he tries to leverage that into a trade. But Brandini about to go mega. Not really the one that you want to dash on into in this time and place. And taking another peek over at those chickens, RBM still has not realized that that's happened. The Darkwings has not taken a look over there either. So really going to be a major win for Winston there to leave those camps up.
Said RBM kind of potentially looking for I don't want to say it's a dive because I feel like that's kind of bad. I think he might just be waiting for the Gromp to spawn. I believe that is Nick's mark as bot side hook lands, and It's a Braum. What you gonna do about it?
If I had a nickel for every time I've seen Arrow 2v2 kill people with the Infernum,
No.
whatever the purple one's called combo, but now there is going to be a dive coming through from RBM, but who's engaging on who here? Is the hook going to come on through? He does not have the ultimate on Kindred, and that's just going to be first blood picked up for Arrow in the bottom lane. Faisal has teleported on down to try to keep the fight going. Brandini has arrived as well. He's going to be able to pick up the first blood on to the side of Fizzy, and now Dabshin going to be traded back on against by Faisal. It is a 2-for-1 for Wildcard in the bottom side, and first blood gold goes over to Arrow as he survives the entire dive here, getting himself rolling on this Aphelios.
Just why, Gordo? For the love of Risen, why do that level 4? It didn't work game 1. It didn't work game 2. Why game 3? Kindred is not your diver. You don't have Lamb's Respite, and Fizzy didn't start the tank. RBM took 2 turret shots right off the bat here. At that point, you just disengage. The TPs come down, and you don't even get a TP advantage. Brandini just gets a bit of a level lead in a lane that was already going to be hard for Faisal.
Yeah, each one of them picking up a kill there, although Bradley is getting engaged on in the river here. He has already used the Relentless Pursuit, so is going to have to flash over this wall if he does want to escape. He's getting himself as much damage as he can. He's finally going to get taken away there by the Dark Passage. A nice attempt by Dark Wings to use the Emperor's Divide, attempting to interrupt it. Isn't able to pull it off, though. Bradley is going to be able to escape with the help of Dabshin and even saves his flash.
And meantime, Arrow, Winston, they're on Dragon, because there was no need for them to do anything. Dabshin's Thresh, it's so clean. I mean, we talk so much about the Thresh in context of the Aphelios, but Dabshin is just a really good Thresh player. It kind of doesn't matter the AD carry or who you're rescuing there. The Dark Passages are on point. The Death Sentences are on point.
Oh, Winston coming on in here from the backside. Dabshin has a flash forward to get the flay there onto Dark Wings, but it is going to be RBM here for the cover. He's going to block away the culling, but he's just going to get cold down himself as Bradley falls up with the dive under the turret. Is going to get picked up here by Dark Wings on the backside, but it's another 2-for-1 in favor of Wildcard Red. They're going to advance the kill score to 2-4.
And more importantly, that is RBM getting slowed down once again here. We have to remember the start of the game. Yes, Winston is now up CS, but the game started with a 3 buff away from Winston, where Winston lost his blue buff, lost control of the bot side of his map here. So the fact that Wildcard has managed to bounce back from that, it feels like all of AOE's early game advantages have been completely lost. They are down 1,000 gold. They've lost initiative, and suddenly getting those marks are going to become a rather difficult task. As I say that, they're going for the 3rd mark.
Yeah, Bradley coming on in here, although he is just going to get turned on around against. It looks like they've called up Fizzy to try to enable him to take this mark. A little bit of control picked up for the side of RBM. He really wants to grab this one to get himself back rolling, back on pace. Winston is here to compete with the smite. RBM going to be able to secure that one for himself, and he lives the chickens alive as well. A little bit of a throwback to Winston's play from earlier.
Fair enough. Winston's there to clear it, though, so won't really slow him down. And that is RBM on 3 marks. Remember, folks, 4 marks is the big sort of gain there. 75 attack range with all the additional little bonuses for that Kindred. And then after that, things slow down. So RBM, as far down as he has in CS, is actually in a pretty decent state kit-wise for the most part. And once again, AOE just needs to slow it down. Take it nice and slow. Their skilling will handle the rest for them.
Absolutely will. Meanwhile, Sketch Dreams, he's just left on this bottom side to farm it on out as Arrow goes for a little bit of a roam towards the mid lane. Not going to be too much to be found on the back of that one. Now, looking back into the top, Brandini, he's got a little level lead for himself. He's got a nice CS lead, playing the Gnar versus Renekton matchup appropriately. Meanwhile, RBM has started on up onto this Rift Herald. Does not appear to be any response here from the other side, and he is going to look to pick up this Scuttler as well. That's going to be his 4th mark. He is now on the advanced range mode.
Winston did go back to base, can't do anything about it. And for Winston, you're coming out of base, you know that Kindred's top side, you start making a play into the mid or bot lane, especially when your mid laner is going in and stealing red buff alone here. You definitely want to start playing around that bot side. Look for the dive. Equalizer is available.
Oh, and Brandini now getting collapsed on by the side of RBM. He might look to repeat Bradley's play from earlier and go for the execute. And there we go. Houdini, Brandini. Now you see him, now you don't. He gets executed onto that top lane inner turret. Meanwhile, though, teleport play coming from Bradley into this bottom lane. Sketch Dreams going to be left here all alone along with Fizzy. They're just going to get gunned down under the turret. 2 more kills picked up for Wildcard. A clean dive in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and the reason why I called that was because there's no counterplay coming through from AOE there. You just don't have anybody you can send down. TP still just coming off cooldown for Darkwing. So you literally have no backup whatsoever there. And the vision coming through from Sketchstreams and Fizzy, it's just not quite enough when your jungle is being invaded like that. And they saw them. They saw Bradley come on in. You know that that is no longer your jungle on the bot side.
Yeah, what Arrow is now well and truly online here, using those chakrams to be able to pick up this bottom lane turret once again. All the plates in the bottom lane funneled right into Arrow's pocket, and this time he is not on the Varus, he is on the Aphelios. Should be a menace come these team fights later on.
Okay, now, aside from sort of the ganks we're seeing, the skirmishes we're seeing, Darkwings is still doing really well for AoE. He is up in CS significantly, and part of that is Bradley roaming. But Sketchstreams also was not doing too bad in the 2v2 1v1. That deficit we're seeing right now is effectively just about a wave and a half worth of minions, and that came off that dive on the bot lane turret here. So they're not out of the running yet. The bot side of the map is still something that AoE can play through, and because Faisal did manage to get that top side turret as well, that unlocks him to roam, and I want to see AoE maybe start grouping up a little bit early and moving together as a unit.
Yeah, AoE, you know, if they got nothing else, they still got some shenanigans on their team composition. They have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow to go for these long-range picks, potentially even across the map. They have this combination of the Kindred and the Azir, where you can throw on down the Lamb's Respite and then push all of the enemies out of it. There's opportunities here for AoE to take incredibly powerful team fights. They just need to find the right situations, and they kind of need Wildcard Red to maybe mess up somewhere along the line to be able to get those opportunities.
Yeah, one situation is coming up right now. Dragon is up and available here. If they can control the choke points.
Oh, but Fizzy just getting caught on out here. Winston has layered on down the red carpet, but he is going to be able to jump on across to really big meme. That is going to keep Fizzy alive for the time being, but what of this dragon take should not be super possible with Fizzy already taken out. RBM going to have to bail, and that is going to be another dragon going in the pocket of Wildcard Red. They pick up their second one of the game. Brandini wants to keep on going. He's got the mega form. He's committed the teleport. Shouldn't be able to catch on to anybody else from AoE, though. They successfully retreat, losing only the dragon.
And despite the fact that AoE did lose the dragon there, that's perfectly fine. More importantly, you didn't lose anyone else. It's just a Cloud Drake here, and that's all you need to do is just not give up too much. Wait for the reset here. And now Fizzy is level 6. You do have the Glacial Fissure available. I think that was one of the key reasons why they couldn't turn that fight. And why Fizzy ended up taking so much damage there. Next time that happens, Fizzy can just disengage, throw down that Glacial Fissure, and then maybe, in fact, you can even try and pick somebody on the back end of it there with that Enchanted Crystal Arrow with an Emperor's Divide to try and isolate a single target.
Yeah. And, you know, once again, we're going to have to be keeping our eyes on Arrow throughout this whole game, because with all of that plate gold, he has already skyrocketed himself up to the Kraken Slayer, and he's just going to have so much power now in these team fights. You know, somehow he's gotten the council to grant him emergency powers, and he's just got so much more gold than he should have at this point.
Indeed, he does here, and I'm waiting for that 2-item power spike, you know, because step 1 is getting to the Senate floor. Step 2 is getting them to actually vote you as Chancellor here, so we'll have to see if Arrow manages to pull that off. And for all that I keep saying AoE needs to slow things down and scale, Arrow is going to enjoy that time as well here in order to get his gold in his pocket. It's really more on Winston and Bradley to push the pace of the game, so I like what we've been seeing so far.
Like this as well, as now there's going to be the red carpet layered on down here from the side of Winston. Fizzy once again going to be the victim here. He gets thrown on down there from the Moonlight Vigil from Aphelios, but not going to end up falling down. Once again, Fizzy managed to survive with just a tiny sliver of HP, still keeps the flash and the Glacial Fissure as well. You can call that one as close to a victory as we've seen from Fizzy in quite a while here, as he's just been getting bullied these last couple of games. Does manage to escape with his life.
Hey, man, as long as Fizzy's drawing attention like that, that's definitely a win they get away with. Faisal is trying desperately to try and catch up in CS bot side, and meantime, Darkwings was pushing top. Darkwings has continued to maintain this bit of a CS lead here, and the early game heavily favors Lucian, like we said here. But once you start getting those items, especially once you see the first mythics come through, that's when Darkwings gets to lane better against the Lucian, much more comfortably against the Lucian, and then you can start trying to back up RBM, and with that 2-man unit at that point, with that Emperor's Divide, you can actually win skirmishes against the Rumble and the Lucian.
Yeah, now Brandini about to go Mega here while everybody on AoE is funneling into this choke point. They do wisely back on away there, preventing themselves up from a big Gnar wall-up combo up against the wall. They are going to be able to take the Scuttler and get on out for the time being, and no Dragon left for about 2 more minutes. So not going to be too much else to fight over here. Faisal might have found Brandini here stuck in mini form, but he's just going to hop over the wall and get himself out of there.
Yeah, there was an opportunity, and I love the fact that Faisal correctly identified that once he goes mini. He's so punishable, right? And RBM was waiting in the wings as well. But unfortunately, Brandini, well, he's Houdini for a reason there. Is an escaped artist. We saw the execute, but he's also very good at getting himself out of danger. And once again, kind of go back to a bit of a lull state, question mark?
Yes, Brandini going in aggressively here. He has got the Divine Sunderer already and is just chasing down on a Faisal with so much damage in his pocket. Chunks throwing Ekton out so incredibly low. Enchanted Crystal Arrow thrown towards the bottom lane, not going to land onto anybody. That's a really big win for Brandini in this side lane.
Yeah, roughly about 1.5 minutes on that Enchanted Crystal Arrow here at rank 1. So it won't be available for the Dragon. And more importantly, it's not available for this Herald right now. Wildcard. Yeah, I don't see why they should peel off. Just do it. AoE can't walk into you.
Yeah, it's a big pain point for AoE right now. They would need their front line, they would need their Renekton, but he is otherwise occupied in that bottom lane for the time being. And it means it's going to be a free Rift Herald picked up here for the side of Wildcard. They continue to exert their control over the map here.
Now, with that said and done, it is actually a small opportunity right now for the side of AoE to set up for the bottom side of the map. They are a little bit behind, but they are at the point where they can look to flex themselves a little bit in these team fights and see whether or not they can win it. More importantly, they can control choke points with that Glacial Fissure and with that Emperor's Divide here. So depending on how Brandini plays this, if he doesn't get into the back line, AoE should actually be able to take control of this objective, this dragon that's up.
Yeah, they are the first ones there as it spawns. They're going to start it up right away with the trio of Faisal, RBM, and Darkwings. Brandini is here, though, and he's about to go Mega. Nice timing here on this Gnar. They go on in. The Smite comes on through, but the Gnar comes back to throw some members into the team. It's going to be an attempted flash away from RBM. He throws on down the Lamb's Respite, and he is going to get taken on down, flayed out of there by Daption. Now, can the rest of AoE escape with their prize of the Dragon? It does appear like they are going to be able to do so, but they've lost so much to this Rift Herald. They've lost their jungler, and now they're getting forced out of their own jungle by the side of Wildcard.
Yeah, really heads up play from Wildcard as well to make sure that they not only get an exit kill, but the mid lane turret, another chunk as well. Insta cleanse Captain Jack Sparrow here from Arrow to just be able to make sure the Enchanted Crystal Arrow doesn't even matter. But the cooldown on that is fairly significant. The arrow will be back up, and AoE needs to start playing around these small windows of timing here. A summoner's down, you need to punish that player here. If you don't, then, well, Wildcard just feel like they're the better team right now when everything is equal.
How many Disney characters is Arrow going to be throughout the course of this series? As now he is getting collapsed on here, since he's going to be engaged on by the side of Sketchdream. They potentially going to be able to get the custom close on down. One more auto should be able to do it, but he lands it on Adaption instead. It's going to be flayed under the turret. He survives the volley as well. It was all a bait from the evil mastermind that is Darth Arrow. They're going to be picking up 3 kills here off the back of the botched dive. Another big win for Wildcard Red. Takes down RBM, Sketchdreams, and Fizzy.
You can't keep getting away with it. When? Who is going to be able to punish Arrow? Faisal in a bit of a dangerous spot, but should be okay here.
Yeah, he's going to be able to just walk on out here as Brandini in the Mega form, just too threatening here. Does have access to the Gnar as well. And without a team there, AoE, they really can't challenge him at all. They're going to lose their top outer as well to Bradley on the split push.
What you gonna do about it? Nothing, apparently, here. Brandini not even taking the Dark Passage. Just bounces on right out of there. And for AoE, they need to find some sort of favorable play for themselves. I was okay with them before, just kind of stalling it out a little bit. But in the last 5 minutes here, they've died 4 times, lost 2 turrets. That is a huge influx of gold. 7,000 to be exact in terms of differentials right now, and that does mean that when they go back, when they shop, you're going to be at a massive item disadvantage. You're trying to set up for Winston here. I don't know if these two have enough damage. Equalizer's already back up.
Yeah, going to at least be trying to get something here as they do manage to land the concussive blows there. Should be able to get their stun fairly soon, are able to do so, but it only takes Winston to about half HP. Now Fizzy has to back out away, be concerned about Brandini. He throws down
Arrow?
the Glacial Fissure to create a little bit of distance, but here comes Arrow. He picks up the first kill there onto
Oh.
Fizzy, gets the root down onto RBM. He's going to pick up Kindred as well. That actually goes over to Brandini. Now Faisal trying to escape. He's going to get Dark Passage on. He's going to get thrown back in with the Gnar. He's going to fall on down as well. It is another 3-for-0 for Wildcard. Gonna be another Baron here as well. It looks like this series is all but over, RMC.
Oh, Gordo. Scene. AoE getting killed. Cut. AoE getting killed. Cut back. AoE getting killed. And Baron now in the pockets of Wildcard right now. The deck was truly stacked in favor of Wildcard here. Start to finish in every single game. They can't deal with Arrow whatsoever. And in this game, they still can't deal with Arrow. And here's the thing that boggles my mind the most. Arrow's not even the most fed player on their team. Bradley has more kills in his pocket, has almost even CS. For that matter, Daption has more kills than Arrow does right now.
Yeah, Daption's got almost 100% KP this game. He has really been showing up here on this Thresh, is an expert player on this champion. As you said, has been drawing bans on it throughout the series and throughout the tournament, and he's really showing everybody why here. It's a great pairing with Arrow's Aphelios, but also just on its own is a huge playmaker here and can really provide a lot of safety to his teammates and a lot of threat to the opposition.
Okay, Brandini's pushing in mid right now, solo. But it's Pate. Look at what's happening bot side of the map. They're all coming in there. All of Wildcard's here, and RBM, are you cut off?
He spots it out. Daption's already used the Shurelias there, so not really going to be able to find the engage they were looking for. AOE do save their lives for the time being, but what about Bradley? He's in the bottom lane. He's got the Baron buff. He's just taken out this inner turret for pretty much nothing, while AOE, they can't go in even 5 versus 4. There's going to be a huge equalizer, taking Sketch Streams down to incredibly low HP. That's all it really takes. This Sun Disc not going to last very long either. Arrow advancing forward, looking to go in onto Faisal, just get some shots down, and that's going to be a dash forward for Bradley to pick it up with the culling. A nice pickup for the mid laner of Wildcard Red there as they're going to bust open the base and look to take the bot lane inhibitor.
I was actually going to criticize that equalizer that came down from Winston. It did absolutely nothing. But considering that's the only criticism I have for Wildcard right now, does it even matter? You just go down instead, get the kills there. Brandini gets the free push, double inhibitors here. AOE, I said their backs are up against the wall this game. Their backs are up.
Oh, that's the root Moonlight Vigil coming on through from the side of Arrow. They hook and pull on in Fizzy. He's going to fall down as well. Now they're looking to get onto these Nexus turrets. They want to close out the game and close out the series right here. 23 minutes, 10 seconds into game number 3. They're knocking on the Nexus towers. They have taken down one Nexus turret already. Now going to be flashing forward onto RBM. He's thrown down the Lamb's Respite. Should keep him alive for a short period of time. Daption going to get shut on down by Faisal. He tries to fight back, but Arrow's where all the damage lives, and Arrow's gonna melt right through him. Now Darkwings and Sketchstreams grouping up around this last Nexus turret, trying desperately to keep it alive, but the Baron minions do so much damage. Darkwing advances forward, trying to make the hero play, isn't able to get the Emperor's Divide onto anybody. He's gonna fall down as well. The door comes on up to block away the culling, but they've already lost their main damage source in the form of Darkwings. There's already 4 members coming forward onto this Nexus, and Wildcard Red are going to advance to the semifinals and look to defend their cup title in the second Tier 2 tournament.
There were questions asked of Wildcard, Gordo. They lost Dokla. They pick up Brandini. They lost to Maryville in their very first round, and people were saying that, hey, Wildcard, they ain't what they used to be. They're not the same team that won Challengers Uprising. But to those people, I present you AOE versus Wildcard, because this was incredibly dominant from Wildcard here, start to finish. And Brandini did not look bad whatsoever here. I would argue won his lane in almost every single game. Wildcard is here to try and win their second T2.
Yeah, no, I was there on the Wildcard stream, RMC. I felt the unease in the air as Wildcard Red fell down to Maryville to start on off the group stages. But since then, it has only been up and up for the side of Wildcard. They've beaten every opponent that has come up against them. And now they've beaten AOE, and they've gotten themselves top 4 at another T2 tournament, looking to take themselves another title. This team looks very close to unstoppable here, no matter which top laner you put on the roster.
Pretty much. And for AOE as well, props to them. They didn't just give up. Granted, the last game score is 3-18 in a 24-minute game. That's not. They,
Oh,
they fought right to the end there. Hello,
there we
perfect.
go.
Yeah,
Now we
sorry.
have RMC.
That's just slight problems there, technical difficulties. Yeah, they fought right to the very end there, and they fell. But you can already tell when we heard Elijah on the desk, AOE knows that they've got some issues they need to work through here. And granted, it didn't look super clean this game, but if they know what the problems are, and now that they've kind of been knocked out of the playoffs, they have plenty of time now before the next T2 starts, and they can work on those problems. And hopefully, the next time we see them, it's going to be that old AOE, the one that we saw back in Challengers Uprising group stages, the confident team that should have been one of the top 4 teams.
Yeah, and they've netted themselves some points here by making top 8, so they're going to be looking better and better for their seeding coming on in towards the Proving Grounds qualifier, which will take place after the third tier 2. But enough on that. We're going to throw it over to the analyst desk here to break down our last game of the evening.
Welcome back to the analyst desk as we watch Wildcard Red clean up AOE in 3-0 fashion here. Once again, DJ joined by Elijah and Taco to wrap up the day. And before we get into the details, gentlemen, I didn't really get a chance to shoot one of my guns yesterday in the Wildcard Civil War. So here's finally the Arrow Aphelios Wildcard Red gun. I've been waiting to fire this one off since all I've seen is Varus for the last couple days, and unfortunately, I don't have a bow and arrow. So here we go. Finally, we get the shot off, and now we will get back to the action at hand. A very, very one-sided game here in game number 3 for Wildcard. It felt like they had just broken AOE at a certain point, and they do clean them up in 3-0 fashion, gentlemen.
Apologies. Yeah, we both called it, unfortunately. If they lost game 1, it's going to be a long night or a short night, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, it just kind of like, again, sucks to be right.
Yeah, I mean, the train fell off its tracks. I mean, like you said, Elijah, like it was a lot of the series was going to come down to momentum. And after game 1, they tried to do some different stuff. Game 2, Tristana jumped into the rest of the team, and that didn't work out. So game 3, I just kind of felt like we were a little bit on autopilot. Like, all right, let's try and see if we can make some, mechanical outplays. Because in draft, it was really not an outplay. Getting over the Aphelios Thresh. And yeah, I mean, it just boiled down to Wildcard Red just dominating them early on, cleaning up the series really fast. I think you said it was a 24-minute victory. I mean, I can't say I didn't see it coming, but I did see it coming, so
Yeah, you both certainly did here, both predicting the 3-0s. I had the 3-1. I was not quite on the same page. I didn't quite think the gap would be as big today, but at the very least here for AOE, they have qualified for 2 playoffs. They do have a lot of points in their favor going into qualification for Proving Grounds, and they still have a lot of time to work on some of the issues that we did see here today. So hopefully we will see those improve as we do get ready for our 3rd Tier 2 tournament. But moving forward, Wildcard Red, already champions of Challengers Uprising. They will be facing the winner of EGP and Zeus Gaming. Zeus, the last time I checked, had a 2-1 lead in that series. But both of these teams will be looking for revenge, as Wildcard did take them both down on the way to Cup. So talk to me a little bit about what you've seen from Wildcard, how you think their prospects look going forward into either of those matchups.
I mean, I think after what they showed today, it really isn't a question of whether Brandini cannot bowl into the team. It's really just how far or how much higher can Wildcard Red take their success than when they had Dokla before. I think it's really undisputable to say they are the best team in amateur right now. And the fact that they replaced one of their players, or sorry, rather one of their players moved up to academy, that hasn't changed them at all. I think today they were very strong in their semifinals match, whether it be EGP or Zeus. I do expect them to go against a little bit of trouble because I do also think EGP is a very wonderful team. Ito has very good draft sense. Zeus, very good team as well. Alorum and Wiggly, or rather Griffin, have some of the most insane champ pools ever. I heard that Alorum was playing his Sejuani top. I've seen on Twitter a few times, but no, I think Wildcard Red, very good team. Semifinals, maybe not a quick 3-0. Might be a 3-1 either way, but yeah, I mean we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, honestly. It's kind of hard to say how much Wildcard's really pulled it together, considering their last couple series have been obviously against an AOE team that's been struggling a little bit. Wildcard Black, which they literally have to be better than, and 100 Thieves next team that I feel like everyone doesn't really have too high of expectations for, at least in that group, at least. So against what did you say, Zoos?
Zoos or EGP. Yep.
Yeah, Zoos or EGP. They're actually going to get some sort of a challenge, and if they show up like they did against Maryville, they will lose.
All right, so a little bit of differing opinions here. Maybe some stuff still to work on for Wildcard Red, but fortunately, they will have at least a day here before they have their. Excuse me, this is it's Tuesday. They'll have at least a week here before they do face their next opponent to get used to the patch 11.13 and prepare for that match. But that will wrap it up for us here on the desk for today. Do want to thank my partners here in Elijah and Taco, our producer, First Night of Knee, and our sponsor here, U.GG, for helping bring you this incredible stream. Do check them out as they are one of the only sites that I do believe provides all of the information you're looking for regarding your ability to rank up on the ladder. But with that, once again, we'll be wrapping it up here today. We hope you have enjoyed the games. Tune in next week for more Risen action as we move on to the semifinals. But until then, we hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful night.